All right, buddy. Welcome everybody to the Thursday Night Forum. Listen, it's been a couple of weeks. I'll get into it in a little bit, but I wanted to welcome. You see Tony up in the top left-hand corner. He'll be back over in a second, and Stan, the man, is in the house as well. Stan, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, thank you, Ray. Did you put a tweet out?
You know what? I did not. You know what I did?
You probably don't know we're
Well,
here.
yeah, people don't know we're here. Uh, the Thursday Night Forum has always been about. It's a little bit of a cult. I feel like it's a little bit of a cult niche segment of the podcast. So you know, Tony, how are you?
I'm all right. Arm hurting a little bit because today I started a physical therapy on it. Rotator cuff surgery is not fun.
Yeah, look, I think you'll notice that I haven't been podcasting for a couple of weeks. A couple of reasons. I have this irritating cold throat thing going on, and I'm trying to get that frog out of my throat right now. Another thing,
Ray, you would have let me host last Thursday. Now you can tell the other part of the story.
yeah. The other part of the story is, and I think Stan and Tony will agree with this. Last summer, everyone when I was talking to them, oh, you're an Arsenal fan, right? Oh, I think they're going to win the league. I think they're going to win the league this season. And we've had a few years now under Mikel Arteta of constant progress, continually building the points up from 56 points in the first season, winning an FA Cup to 63 points, to a big jump, I think, of 83 or something like that, and then 89 last season. And, you know, honestly, I'll say it myself. This is not how the season was supposed to go. And we're not coming from a privileged point of view. We're coming from what we saw progress under Mikel Arteta and the team, and gaining the vital point pieces and in the team. Okay. And we know last summer we wanted a striker, and we can definitely say it again. We'll need a striker this summer. But not coming from an area of privilege either, but feeling that we could have done better this season. And I'll touch on it as well. I think Stan might agree with me that the PGMOL officiated us harsher, more harder than other teams. And what happened is this season we had a tough schedule to start with. Liverpool took a big chunk of a lead ahead of us, 9 points, and frankly, we were not good enough. We were not good enough in the last 3-4 months to bridge that gap, to close it up. And we're still at I've forgotten what the points is anymore, because it's a forlorn chase now against Liverpool. But that's it. I haven't been really motivated to podcast because I've been slightly Arsenal depressed. I'll just say it. Arsenal have depressed me this season. The PGMOL have depressed me. The level of officiating has depressed me. And Liverpool have been the only team who has been consistent throughout the season. And are there on merit. And the other teams have faltered behind them. So with that being said, go ahead, Stan, because I think you might echo some of the things I'd say, have said. Stan, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I definitely I would agree with you that Arsenal has been over-reffed at points this season. And probably to those that are outside the Arsenal sphere, that might sound like a conspiracy theory, and maybe to some inside the Arsenal sphere. But some of the fouls that have been given against us, which have resulted in cards or sending off, some of them, even by some of our biggest detractors' opinions, has been never seen before. Apparently going up and having a clash of heads now can deem that you can get sent off for it. Things like that. So that hasn't contributed to where we thought that we were going to be this season. And there's a lot of other factors as well. The managers made some decisions. I'll pick one out of the air, probably running Saka into the ground when you didn't need to. If you're coasted in the game and you've got a schedule coming up, then you don't need to make certain players play to the full 90. Maybe you want to take them off a little bit earlier and to try and spread it out a little bit more over the season. The board as well didn't look like the board wanted to back the manager It seemed like he had some plans in the last window. I don't think it was a case where the board was saying to Mikel Arteta in the last window, "You're going to buy someone," and he was going, "No, we're all good, thank you. I'm not buying anyone." He came out and said in some interviews that he was hoping to bring someone in and was disappointed that they didn't, which tells me then that he was probably overridden in that call by people above him, which be the owners. So there's many factors, and a lot of these things we've made it harder on ourselves. So we're in a position now for me where it kind of feels like we're not chasing Liverpool anymore, because I think that ship has sailed. I think we're more in a position that we've got to try and keep hold of second place, not drop down a position. And I say that because we're riding our luck a little bit with some of the players that have been away, having no strikers at the moment. We are riding our luck, and at any time, at any moment, that luck could finish. You know what I mean? It could, we could find ourselves in a situation where the Merino thing stops working out for whatever reason. He could even get injured. Then we've got to try and find something else, right? So for me, it's all about trying to, at least trying to maintain the second spot. Because, not only for the Champions League, but also as well financially, the higher you finish, the more money you get.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, Tony, what are your thoughts, Tony?
I was going to give you some advice first.
Yeah.
It's the button on the right, Ray, that pops up the comments. Then you double click them, and then you see the comments.
So you double click them, or just click? Okay, I like that. The Arsenal Misfit has joined us, right, Tony?
Yep.
So you mean? Yeah. Okay, so the Arsenal Misfit, Stephen has joined us, and I have moved to ReStream because StreamYard have cut my allocation from 20 hours a month to 5 hours a month. So
it's a little bit like you're driving a brand new car and you're not quite comfortable with it. You don't know where all of the buttons are. They're in different places from the old car.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going for your indicators. You're going for your indicators, and your windscreen wipers are coming on.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started doing this podcast thing, it was like from my phone. There's been an evolution, right? So it's been about the third car we've been on, right? So we went from very crude methods to StreamYard, and now we're moving to ReStream. So I know he's been there from the start as well, and BX Gunner's in the house as well as a moderator. He's had years to bring in a damn striker. His time is up. Exactly, I agree with you, BX. And yes, Tony.
You've had the people that say, "Oh, they're not supporting the manager because they haven't bought a striker." It's like, no, the managers never tried to buy a striker.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he did in January, but it gets me because I've asked that question 3 years ago, where it was the board spending money because they supported Arteta, or are they spending it to get to the Champions League?
Mm-hmm. Just like that guy. I think Stan is kind of leaning that way as well, that we've only done enough to get into the Champions League and maintain our status in the Champions League, albeit for the second season right now. But we look like we'll be confirmed for a third season in the Champions League. But, we want more than that. We want to challenge for the Premier League. We want to actually challenge in the Champions League, and we got a big game coming up against Real Madrid. And we have to ask ourselves, are we good enough to beat Real Madrid without Bukayo Saka? Are we good enough to beat Real Madrid with Bukayo Saka? But hold that thought about Bukayo Saka, because he's back in training now, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, Tony and Stan, I've come to the realization, and I think we've known this for a little while, right, that you're not really going to win anything until you get a bona fide striker who's going to score 15 or 20 Premier League goals for you, guaranteed. So almost every game in the Premier League, 38 games in the Premier League, you're almost guaranteed a goal start because you have a player like, dare I say it, Alexander Isak, or Gyökeres? Stan?
I kind of feel like Arsenal are at the moment. You ever seen someone who's got that dog? They're usually like a little dog, and for whatever reason, one of its back legs it's kind of hopping. It's got one of its back legs that won't touch the ground, and it's running along on three legs, and it's still having a go. Someone
Yeah,
rings the
yeah,
doorbell. It still runs to the door barking, but one of the legs is fucked, and he's not
yeah,
quite gonna. You know what I mean? He's not going to win
yeah,
the race. I
yeah,
kind of feel that's us at the minute. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that back leg that's not touching the ground for us is a striker.
yeah.
You know?
We've. I mean, I've tried to rationalize that Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, they could be if we got 4 or 5 players. So Tony, I'd said in the last 2 years, I've been saying if we get 5 or 6 players that's going to score 10 goals or more, that's 60 goals guaranteed. You know, by committee. So I think Mikel Arteta's tried to do that by committee, right, Tony?
Yeah, yeah, he's trying to do that by committee, but I think you need a backup striker that gets you 10 to 15 on top of a guy that's going to get you 15 to 25. You need both of those
Yeah,
because they're either to go out of form, you can't play them in every competition. So you need to at least two. We've always had 4 or 5. It's weird having basically zero now because I I don't think I don't think Kai is a striker. You might call him a forward, but he's not a striker, I would say.
I'll tell you what though, it would have been interesting if Kai Havertz had stayed fit this season. And okay, but Kai Saka's injured, Odegaard's injured, and if Kai Havertz could have taken on the mantle of being the primary goal scorer in a title race, getting close to Liverpool, and maybe getting to Anfield and having winner takes it all kind of game for the third game from the end at Anfield. Ifs and buts though, right? And we've had such a bad season for injuries that how do we quantify this season now? Do we have to just accept that it's an injury hit season and mark it down as one to write off in the evolution of Arsenal under Mikel Arteta?
No, because you got a super thin squad. You don't have any depth to it, which you should have added. You'd have Partey that leaves. You have Jorginho that leaves. You have Rice that you don't know where the hell he fits into the midfield. You have your other midfielder playing left back, which is 19 years old, which has been one of the best defenders on the team.
Yeah,
You could try him in the middle because you have nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose to try him as a defensive midfielder in front of a back four. It's just, to me, Skelly needs to be played where he should. If he played last year, you could have made that decision and not went out and bought Calafieri. That would have saved you money.
mm-hmm.
And probably if you looked elsewhere in the midfield, we have a 17-year-old, which is, I would say, that's better than the guy we signed, Mourinho, that's playing striker. So I don't think we bought any talent better than the talent we had, which is kind of criminal. Kind of like criminal not getting Watkins this winter.
Yeah,
And now one of your number one targets is again, which was rumored last year and rumored again this year, is Bruno again, a guy that you could have had for 32 million.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now you're arguing between 70 and 75 million, whatever they'll end up paying.
Yeah, it does seem like a little while since we outflanked the market or outsmarted the market. You know what I mean? Newcastle brought in Isak for 60 million. Well, that's an investment for them. Well played, Newcastle. The same thing with Bruno Guimaraes, and maybe Arsenal should have been on the premise for both of those players. What do you think, Stan?
I think that if and when the time comes in the summer, and let's say, the manager's backed, there's money in the pot, and we're going out to bring in a new striker, we need to be going best in class, just like we did with Declan Rice.
Yep.
We felt that Declan Rice was best in class. Therefore, we played the long game and we put the money on the table. I think we should be doing the same thing with this position. And if that's the case, for me, that's Alexander Isak.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they turn around and say, no, we're not going to sell him, we should show our intent. Shouldn't
Yep.
second guess. We shouldn't sit
Well,
behind closed doors and, oh, do you think he'll come? You won't know until you try. And Newcastle can either say yes, no, or come back with a little bit more. But I think that we should be going for best in class. For me,
Yeah.
to bring in someone like Sesko, or even the new one I'm hearing about, Hugo Hetieki, or whatever, I can't pronounce his surname, but
Okay.
there's
The
a new
TK,
guy.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, those are projects. They're gambles, they're projects. That's why they're going to be cheaper. And I think that for where we are, what the league that we're playing in, and where we want to be, we should be past that stage now of projects. We
Yeah.
need to be buying a player for that position that can come in and can hit the ground running from day one. The real deal. None of this like, oh, they've got to adjust and they've got to, we should be past that, because for every match we're adjusting with a prospect and trying to give him time and to try and see, trying to get him into right of be, by the time with every match we do that is another match that we could lose 3 points. And there's no
Yeah.
time for that now. So if you want to win the league, this is like if you're the owner, you can either go out and get best in class, or you can spend less money and just hover in and around about the Champions
Well,
League area. That's what it is.
let's definitely. I agree with you, Stan. Let's hover there and talk about Alexander Isak,
And just
right?
before we do that as well, if I may, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan David, he's free in the summer.
Yeah.
that's what
Apparently.
I was just I
Oh,
mentioned.
And for me,
He
hang on, hold on a minute, Tony. For me, I could just see Arsenal dilly dallying, blah blah blah, and the only person we bring in is the free one.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I would actually say, if you know that Jonathan David is free, go and get Isak, but also get David if he's free.
Yeah.
Or if you can't get Isak, try and go and get Giroquez and David. He's free.
Yeah.
Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But the fact that he's free, you could just add that under the tree, under the Christmas tree as a bonus present.
A free one and a
Don't let
proven
it
one,
play
right?
into your don't let it play
Yeah.
into your main shopping and go, oh, we'll just get him. He's a striker and he's free. No, get him as well. Get him as well as somebody else. Be smart.
Yeah. Tony, I know you agree with that. I know you've been mentioning Jonathan David as well as a free.
Yeah, I mentioned him, then I mentioned Nico Williams since he has a buyout of 49 million euros. I would go give that to Spain any minute because you can pay those release clause anytime. Then you can worry about agreeing with a player, but you might as well go put the 49 million down because you're not gonna get a player like that for that cheap.
Yeah. Okay. So
And I don't think the wages are of ASU because you'll have parties and a bunch of others going off the books. So
I really hope that the Arsenal board and the Arsenal club are going to do something because they've kept their gunpowder dry over January. Now that could be a lot to do with Edu moving on in his role, and Jason Ato just not being up to snuff in terms of these big negotiations for big name strikers. So we shall see as what is his name, Nicola Berta comes on the scene. I think he's coming on the premise pretty soon if he hasn't already started work at Arsenal. So here we are. Let's say April, May, and then June. The window. I think we just got news about the window opening in June as well. So there is a lot of work to be done. For me, a striker cures a lot of ills. for me, a striker, um, can overcome the draws that we've been encapsulated in this season. We've been caught up in 9 or 10 draws this season. Well, you bring in a Premier League striker, a proven Premier League striker. Let's say Isak, for argument's sake. Like I said, you're almost guaranteed a goal. In 2/3 of the games, you're guaranteed a goal start, because Isak would fire in any top six Premier League team. Right, he's going to get 20, 25 goals in the Premier League. Newcastle create a lot of goals on the counter attack. Arsenal would have to adapt to his game a little bit, but let's get into his mindset a little bit. Stan, what do you think Alexander Isak's mindset is? Because I see a player who was a driven player to win the Carabao Cup almost single handedly, a lot like Aubameyang did in the FA Cup for Mikel Arteta in 2020.
Well, if I was the player, and you are thinking about maybe pastures new and moving on from your club, you got to think about timing. When is a good time for me to do it? When is a good time to announce? And he's just come off of the back of helping Newcastle win their first trophy in 70 years. And it was a key part of that as well. Mm-hmm. For me, that's quite good timing to call, to have a curtain call and say, well, there you go. It's been great, but I'm going off to do this now. So I understand that there is, and not because I'm in the know and I'm on the phone to him, but I've heard from many, many different reports and conversations of people on higher pay grades than me that there's some sort of clause in his contract regarding Champions League, whereby if Newcastle didn't qualify for the Champions League this season, they would be understandable about him having talks of other clubs that are in the Champions League to do a deal for. So that's kind of like a gentleman's agreement. But I mean, you do get the feeling that there's going to be a move for him. There's a lot of talk about it, right? There's even talk about Liverpool.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool have never been really one to pay the big money, have they?
No.
They don't. Traditionally, they don't pay out. I mean, what's the highest they go to? 70.
They tried 100. They tried, I think, 115 for Caicedo a couple of seasons ago, and he decided to go to a little bit over 100 maybe, and he decided to go to Chelsea on the final day of the season.
Traditionally, they don't spend. They're not a high spender.
No.
As I mentioned before, we should be in this position now, just like with Declan Rice, that for that position we should be not looking for a square peg that can fit into a round hole, not looking at a project that may or may not work and someone who's got potential. We need to be looking for best in class.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't buy best in class, then that shows me your intention. If you don't even try and don't have that conversation and don't try for that tells me then you don't want to win the thing. You just want to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Because if you did want to win it, you'd buy the best in class, right? That's what you would do, right?
This summer is gonna test the ambition of the club, and we went large with Declan Rice 2 seasons ago. Last season, we hated this fact, but last season was more about balancing the books and maybe adding a little bit of depth to the team. Goalkeeper, left back, midfield, and the forward position got addressed as like an afterthought with Raheem Sterling. Well, we all know how that has gone so far, right?
Tony? He's making Willian look excellent.
Yeah.
Stan, how much did we get last year from the Champions League?
Over 90, right?
Well, so far this year we've made over 70. So it must have been around 80. About 90, 80, 90, somewhere around that, depending on the currency. Hey, Glenn, good to see you. Depending on the currency, whether it's dollars, whether that was dollars or pounds, but we make a lot from that.
I think it's
again is why 80. They want us to be in and around that, right? They want us in the Champions League because
it's a nice little money earner. It's a nice little it keeps the lights on, let's say, at the stadium. and keeps the roof without holes in without holes for the
Yeah,
rain. So
Now,
yeah.
yeah,
sorry to
It's
interrupt you. Sorry, Freddie.
89 this year, so it's 89 million this year so far. So
mm, yeah, Stan.
I was just going to say that if you look at the Kroenkes as owners, their end game, their end game is at some point they're going to sell Arsenal for a profit. That's what they do. They're not looking at this as being an heirloom that's going to be in the Kroenke family for generations to come. Do you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
was for like it was in the old days with the Fismans and people like that. This is at some point Arsenal will be sold at an asset for some sort of a profit. And I
yeah,
think at the moment, and I was just reading this the other day, Arsenal as a football club have received £325 million from the Kroenkes in loans. Those are loans. They're not like loans that you get from a bank with high interest. There's probably no interest on it, but they
hmm
are loans. Now, those loans probably aren't going to be paid back. What will probably happen is that the day is when they come to sell the club, those loans will be factored into the selling price, right? So they will get that back and then some. So what I say is, if that's your game, just keep put. You can afford it. Put some more of them loans in, man, because at some point you're going to sell the club for a higher value anyway, and you will get it back.
yeah,
So I don't mind that system. What I do mind a little bit though is like is like even though that I don't go there, it must be terrible for these people that go to the matches and there's all these price increases on their tickets and their season tickets and all of that going on as well, and pricing some people out of being able to go see the games. But that's another conversation. But
we'll get that.
I
Yeah,
think there's definitely money for them to go big in the summer if needed.
yeah, yeah. It's got to be. I mean, Tony, it's got to be. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the squad. For me, just bring me that striker, and like I said, I think a striker is going to cure a lot of our ills. We can overcome a
yeah,
lot of things, but we do know in midfield we're aging as well, Tony.
yeah. I mean, it's like striker we need two, wingers we need two, and we probably need four midfielders.
Yeah, being
Depending if
real.
you move, depending if you move people around, because you
I
can
tell
put
you what,
Skelly out there if you need to, or
and we talked about this last summer as well. Listen, the players that came in, Calafiori and Mourinho came in, but I also thought that there would be some academy kids coming in to supplement the rest of the team. But they have really excelled as well this season through what has been kind of a difficult season with the expectation of the fans. Not that we were fighting relegation or anything or struggling in the middle of the table like Manchester United or Tottenham, but we had that pressure of expectation and Waneri coming in, showing us what he could do. Miles Lewis Kelly's probably exceeded what Waneri has done just through being the better left back option in the squad over Zinchenko, over Kivior, over Tierney, or any other option we have, Calafiori even. So the two academy kids have done really really well this season, but you'd also say David Raya, and this is sort of a market point here, markedly a point. David Raya has probably been our player of the season. He's uh, outperformed most other players. With Bukayo Saka probably with his injury notwithstanding as well.
If we've got all of these left backs that we can choose from, and Skelly is by tradition, as I understand it, a midfielder. Well, he's already shown that if he's a midfielder, he does have a defensive part to his game because he's
Yes,
been playing as a defender.
yes.
Why have we not? Why do you think we will try, or will we see someone else playing at left back, whether it be Calafiori, whether it be Timber, whether it be a Zinchenko or a Tierney, and will we see Skelly playing next to Odegaard in that left eight position?
Well,
Because
you're looking at
he's obviously
this.
got that defensive part to his game, and we've also seen that he's got a forward part to his game, which would make him a good box to box foil for someone like Odegaard, which will then allow Odegaard to do his more creative parts.
Yeah,
we
go ahead, Tony.
we have nothing to lose by doing it. It's like you're either a finish second or third, you might as well go ahead and try him out and see how he works there. Because if you used him last year, he was constantly on the subs bench. I mean, I don't think he got that much better in a year's time. You could have used him last year, at least coming off the bench, because Arteta likes making those defensive substitutions for whatever reason. And the same with Winery. He could have played because you played him when he was whatever 15 years old and
Yeah.
200 and whatever
Yeah.
days.
15, 16, just for a few minutes, right, to convince him that he
I
had a
think he had
path into
I
the
think
team.
Arteta had his hand forced a little bit in the way as we see Cabia and Butler Adeji always on the team sheet, always on the bench, never get any minutes. Because if you think about when Odegaard was out towards the beginning of the season, he didn't play when he didn't go, okay, there you go, there's your chance. There you go, boy. He was fucking around with the team and the formation and everything
Yep.
rather than playing Waneri, who, as I understand, that is his more natural position. It was only when Saka went out that his hand was forced.
Yep.
Right? His
Yep.
his his
Yep.
hand was forced. And what happened? It's like, oh bloody hell, this kid can play.
Yeah.
You know, do you know what I
Waneri
mean?
really convinced them. Yeah.
And the same with Skelly.
Yeah.
I think the same with Skelly as well. So it's
Yep.
only because I think his hand was forced that we actually we were able to see the talent. And talent speaks overall, right? I mean, you can't deny that when you see that they've got it and they've been used more. Had there been a full squad, no, because as we've seen, Butler Odeji, who's the older of the two strikers on the bench between him and Cabia, one's 19, one's 22. 22. How many training sessions has he had? But he's not good enough to even come
Yeah.
on for like 6 minutes, 7 minutes. You may as well just
Yeah.
put a paper or mannequin on the bench where he sits and let him go to the cinema because he's never going to come on.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
I met many of those players sitting on the bench in recent games because of our injury crisis have been just there as placeholders. So
Why can't we
Tony,
see what?
yeah,
Even when in the game when we got Marino playing up front and we're winning and we're comfortable, can't we
yes,
let Butler Adeji, the older of the two,
give him
come
a few
on?
minutes.
And
Yeah,
if he's not good enough, and we're talking about, well, if he's not good enough, we're going to be selling him. Who's
well,
going to buy him if you don't actually get to see him play? You can't, you know what I mean? How are people going to say, I'm going to buy that guy? They've not seen him
and
do
look,
anything. So it doesn't make sense
this
to
is
me.
this is part of the thing that I certainly have with Mikel Arteta. Like I generally liked what Mikel Arteta's been doing the last 5 or 6 seasons, but he's been slow to bring young players through. He's been slow to give them the chances, and he's always like tried to put an established player in a difficult position on the field, such as Thomas Partey, who should be playing midfield, playing him at right back, and that hasn't worked in any way, shape, or form over the years. You'd be much better
And
playing a young player, Tony, in that position. Go ahead, Tony.
uh, I was going to say this earlier, but since you had mentioned White, if he was healthy, then you'd see Timber on the left,
Hmm.
and you wanted to have seen Skelly this year.
Yeah, yeah,
So and these are the first two academy kids that you've seen during the 5 or 6 years. It's why you've seen this mass exodus from the training, and you already have two players that are training with the first team at Man United. One of them's getting starts now, so apparently they were good enough to play. But
yeah.
I don't know if it's Arteta's trust issues, Arteta being stubborn, but
Well, it,
it's obvious that Skelly's really talented, and it's obvious that Winery's very talented. And there's no excuse that Winery didn't start every game that Odegaard was out.
yeah, yeah,
No excuse.
and I mentioned that earlier at the start, at the outset of this podcast, that Liverpool stole a march on us this season in the early few months, and those were the months when Odegaard got injured, early doors, and we all looked at the squad and thought, well, Ethan Waneri's going to be the supplement to Odegaard, but we also, like Mikel Arteta, also thought Odegaard would play 95% of the minutes, and that just didn't happen with that injury stand. So, but these players have come forward in the white heat of Premier League battle.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd just like to say on the Butler Odeji thing was, when some people go, well, come on, Stan, he's 22 years old. If he's not got in the team by that age, he never will. And my answer to that was, well, didn't we know this when he was 20? Shouldn't we have sold him then? Why is he still here at
Yeah,
22? Now, why is he? If he was any good when he was
but
20, would we have seen him play? It just seems a little bit. It can't be good for him either. Every week he's getting picked and he's on the bench. I bet the excitement of that is gone because he knows come hell or high water,
he's
no
not.
matter what happens in
Yeah.
his position, he's not playing. It's not
He's
happening.
got he's got he's got to be looking at Mikel Arteta, waiting for Mikel Arteta to lock eyes with him. You know, and Mikel Arteta's like, I don't see you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we send him to under 21s for a while. And that's another thing. When Neri skipped the under 21s, he went from under 18s to
Because we
first
have a
first
generational
team
talent
squad.
there. That is generational talent that Mikel Arteta was slow to realize, and the players' performances he's had to elevate himself through the Carling Cup, the Carabao Cup, scoring in the Premier League, and then scoring in the Champions League. So he's scored at three different levels of competitions
What I
within this
also
season.
like is as well is that he's obviously that's not his position, but he's a young kid. He understands that it's his way in to getting the trust of the manager and getting himself in the Arsenal first team, the team that he obviously supports. Right, he's been there a long time. But it's like the manager's like, Skelly, can you play at left back? Is it no problem? Now remember that conversation when it was Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Ainsley, I need you to
Mhm.
play as a fullback. Whoa, oh bloody hell!
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, 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 yeah.
just to show you
And
the different characters, right?
where's
You know,
Ainsley now? Is he in Galatasaray or somewhere in
I
Turkey?
don't, I don't know, but it
Um,
just shows you the kind of character, how you look at
yeah,
people, how you view them. Skelly's obviously like, yeah, no problem. And what's the reward for that? Scoring on his England debut. I mean,
performances.
hello,
Yeah,
hello.
getting capped by England and scoring on your England debut
And
as
not
well.
just getting a cap where you're just brought along to be, familiarized for the future, train, sit on the bench. He starts him. And what does he do?
Clearly,
He replays him and scores a goal. Gets
clearly
man
one
of the
of the
match.
best,
Got man of the match for
one of the
that.
best English left backs in the Premier League. You know, BX said he'd poach from smaller clubs. Cliver, Tyler, Adams from Buemo. Listen, I think there's a player at Bournemouth that I like called Semenyo. I think he's a good
Yeah.
player. There's a few different players across the Premier
Cliver,
League
yeah.
that we should be targeting. Clivert's a good player, but obviously we have to look and see. We got to spend premium money on a striker this summer. We can't get it diverted away. Listen, we're gonna have to get ourselves a goalkeeper as well because of the situation we left ourselves at the end of last summer. Gabriel Megala is 100%. BX said Zinchenko is a good midfielder. I don't want to see him in defense ever again. That stupid shit Pep and Arteta have
Taken so
done.
long. Why did that take so long to ever happen, man? Remember, we always used to joke in here, we talk about Zinchenko in midfield, and I always be like, that's not allowed. Stop talking like that. Stop that. That is not allowed.
Yeah.
But why has it taken
Yeah,
so
yeah,
long?
yeah, indeed. BX said leaving this golden generation in Arteta's hands will result in criminal results. Listen, I don't make the decision about the manager, but my Stan and I have a needle that has moved throughout the seasons, and my needle's moving a little bit this season, Stan. But I would say give Mikel Arteta that striker that we need him to have. The likes of Aubameyang, maybe Isak or Gyökeres. Give him that striker that can score goals, and you might see much different results be ex Gunner as well. But Mick, there's no doubt, Tony. I'll go to Tony. That Mikel Arteta has made some mistakes this season.
It's mistakes that he's made before, not trusting players, trusting the wrong players, putting the players in multiple positions, not playing them in the strength. He complains about the lack of depth, but he's the one that signs players. And he's done this before because at first he said, "Oh, 4 years ago we had too many players." Then the next year he said we didn't have enough players. 2 years later, we don't have enough players again.
Yeah, I think there's some
And,
part of Mikel that's playing the political game as the front for the owners. You know what I mean, Tony?
yeah, but now you have two players that, with their mind, they're good for the youth players. You got Jorginho, you got Partey, and both of them are going at the end of the season. There's no indication up to now that they're going to stay.
Yeah,
They'll probably go home to their home countries and play, and it's a waste of talent because we've had these strikers on the under 21s that we haven't tried, and instead they ended up leaving the club.
well,
And at some point, you have to say, "Oh, we're short on talent, so let's try the youth." And
yeah,
you see these names that are on there every week. But like I said, last year, year before, and the previous 2 years, he hasn't played them. The only one that he's played is Saka because he was already playing.
yeah, and established. Uh, Shout out to Tiger and Gooder. He's joined the fun as well. Listen, I haven't been around for a couple of weeks. You might hear it in my voice. Very very bad flu I had, and I've been Arsenal depressed. Let's just say that much. Arsenal depressed, Tony. And Tony's been trying to cajole me to get on a podcast here with him Sundays and Thursdays, and the way that Arsenal and the injuries and the PGMOL have transpired this season, been a little bit tough for me because we all had that expectation, as I said at the start of the podcast.
Not not
Every
not
Ars-
not not
yeah.
all of us, Ray.
Well, most Arsenal fans had that expectation that we could challenge Man City because we thought Man City would be the benchmark. We thought Man City could be the team that we would be fighting with. We thought Liverpool would be thereabouts, third or fourth place, but I have to commend Arnie Slot. He's been very, very calm, cool, and collected outside of a Goodison Park Merseyside derby, where he did lose his cool. And I would
What?
like to see that next season, Tony, where we start to exert some pressure on Arnie Slot and he
What?
starts to show us who he is. You know what I mean?
What were we? 7 points behind at the start of January, something like that.
Something
Maybe
like
nine.
when we went to play West Ham, we were going to be we were 8 points behind with a game in hand when we were going to play West Ham, and of course we had all these injuries to Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka. We were going to close the gap to 5 points with the equal amount of games, and at that point I thought, Tony, that we could go on. And okay, we didn't have a
Eh,
striker, but I thought we could get some wins together.
Well,
Now
well, what Ray's trying to say is that he was super optimistic,
super optimistic.
Eh,
That's me.
eh, and the players and the coach says let you down.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, leaving this golden generation in Arteta's hands will result in criminal results. I'll put that one up again. We have players, who have potential to win things, hopefully at Arsenal, but there is also that lure of other clubs. I'm talking about maybe a William Saliba, Timber, other players that could go to other clubs, and we're Stan, we're right in that window now where maybe we should have won something by now. Lady Luck has not visited us last season or this season.
Let me ask you a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Let's say Liverpool win the league this season, and I turn around and say, "Wow, that Arnie Slot is not really that good." Why? He won the league in his first season. Yeah, but he done it with most. He done it with Klopp's team. If I was
Mhm.
to say that, would I be taking away from the achievement by saying that? In your eyes?
No, I don't think so because I never really bought the fact that when people criticize Mikel Arteta for winning the FA Cup because he did it with Emery's players, I never really took that as a valid criticism. You know what I mean? So the manager has to use the players that he has. He's had them. Arnie Slot's had them for a season, and he's gotten a tune out of them, and they're leading Arsenal by however many points it is right now.
And Arteta did something that year that he did this year, but
Yeah,
he only did it for like 5 games.
yeah,
Was changing formation. He
innovation.
went to he went to the back three because Niles was really good as a left wing back, and that's why they went to it,
Yeah.
and it worked. They should have used it more in the Premier League, but
So yeah,
it definitely worked in the FA Cup, and you have to do stuff like that. You have to gamble sometimes, and it's not that big of a gamble when you're sitting there at fifth and you're like, okay, let's try this. Or we
yeah,
were eighth, we're actually eighth, so I mean that's not a gamble at all. You don't have Europe to fight for that late in the season, so you might as well went and changed the formation, changed players, whatever you needed to do. But then this year, like Liverpool, I mean, he's managed the players well. Even though three of them might walk away for free at the end of the season,
yeah,
but he's done his job good,
yeah,
and we know Liverpool has good young talent because we went toe to toe with them with a full strength Arsenal team 3 years ago against nothing but under 17s, and they won in the 5-5 draw.
yeah. In that Carabao Cup game. Yeah,
What I would say is though is that taking out that FA Cup, which I still count as an achievement, because as you say, the manager can only work with the tools that he's got,
yeah,
and he was obviously talented enough to come in and be able to influence someone else's players to get them to continue to get them to win that trophy. So I'm not going to take that away from him. But what I would say is that the team has now been overhauled enough and is now in the image of Mikel Arteta that he needs to win something with his team now,
yes, yes,
because there's only so long. Football's career is only so long, and there's only so long that they're going to be able to continue to buy in to what's being
yep,
sold to them if they're
yep,
not getting the trophies in return. Not
yeah,
everybody is going to be like Harry Kane and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out,
yeah,
especially those players that we have that they're not from North London. This is a job to them. They may be
hmm,
French, for example, and if a big club, like Real Madrid comes calling, what do? You may have to
hmm,
take that. You may have to take that if there's nothing going on where you are, because you might not get that call again, right? So you have to look
yep.
at these things.
Your career, you can say your career is long. It could be 15 years, right? But you could also say your career is short in the amount of chances you're going to get to win things. And Trent Alexander Arnold has taken the long route here. The club, Tony said Arnie Slot has done a good job. He's as a manager, he's done a good job for Liverpool. The football club, Liverpool, have not done a good job in securing those three players on contracts or open negotiations. And we had this with Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil when that happened, and Alexis Sanchez left. Tiger said, "I'm sure Wenger won with Bruce Rioch's team." Yeah, And we all know who bought Dennis Bergkamp, right?
David Dean.
It was they, they,
I believe that. I don't think that Bruce Rioch had a lot to do with the influence of David Platt and
I
Dennis
know, but I'm
Bergkamp.
just
You
saying
know what I
David
mean?
Platt and
I kind of believe that David Dean was already getting those players in, knowing there was going to be a change of manager.
no, Stan. It was Bruce. It was Bruce Rioch. Come on.
Ian Wright handed in a transfer request.
Yeah,
It's like the
yeah.
guy's playing me on the left wing. I'm not happy. So David Dean was like, "Well,
But
Ian's not going anywhere."
what? But
uh,
the thing that good managers do, and Arsene Wenger one of them, and Arnie Slot another. They look at the team and understand what they have is good in the team. That back five that Arsenal had, the English back five, and the continental flair of Dennis Bergkamp and all of the rest, they took it on from there. You know what I mean, Tony?
I was just take Stan's side there. I think it's David Dean was the one that made the difference there because it continued with Wenger, the players that they were bringing in. A lot of that was David Dean. Then David Dean exited in
Yeah,
'07, '08, and
yeah.
we for a long time stopped signing good players. It's kind of like the last one we had was Eduardo, then he
And
snapped his
Kurzawa,
leg. Yeah. But
you know.
I mean, you're looking like too, Rosicky, but all those two players were injury prone.
I'm a dead
They're
ringer for Rizicki, that's for sure. I'm old
I
Rizicki.
I I, I like Rosicky more than I did Carzola. Carzo,
Wow.
Carzola, Carzola is somebody that we should bring back as he. I would put him in charge of the academy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. Listen, Red John has joined the crew as well. The Arsenal women's comeback over Real Madrid sparks positivity. Even Saka's return tells me they need to pray for Madrid over there at Bernabeu. A great comeback from the ladies. 2-0 down the first leg, a 3-2 win, and they're into the semi-finals of the Champions League. We aren't just bringing our squad to Madrid; we're also bringing the cannon on our badge. So, a little bit of Real Madrid talk now, Stanley. You want to, since we sort of segued into that, um, this is the kind of game you wanted. Arsenal back in the Champions League. We dallied with Bayern Munich last season. Now it's Real Madrid.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing that you can't deny is, Mikel Arteta has made Arsenal, and it's been consistent now for the last 2 seasons. We're one of the best 8 teams in Europe because that's where we're getting to, right? And that's not a bad accolade to say that you're involved with a team, you support a team, you follow a team, which is it's not in the top 10, it's in the top 8 of all of the teams playing in all of the leagues in Europe.
Yeah,
That's not bad. And for me, I've always in these competitions like the Champions League, I never like to get a backdoor opponent and trying to slip into the final for a backdoor. I want to see my team go up against the best that there is. I want to be able to gauge, where we are as a team against the best, right? Okay, it's a little bit unfortunate that, as I mentioned earlier, about that little dog with his back legs off the ground. I kind of feel that we're going, we're
got a
going
gammy leg.
we're going into the Real Madrid match in that fashion because
Yeah,
we've got this makeshift thing going on up front, right? It's been
yeah,
working. We're flying, as I say, though, we are flying by the seat of our pants. There's only so many times you can keep rubbing that Buddha's head before the gold paint starts coming off.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're rubbing the fuck out of that head to get some luck. And I don't know how long it's going to last, but excited for it.
It's going to be pure adrenaline. Yeah.
Say what you want about Kai Havertz or Gabriel Jesus. I wish they were both fit for that game. I'd rather take that, I'd rather have them fit and well in the squad than not, to be honest with you. If that's what we have.
But you got a great opportunity as well for the academy players, Miles Lewis Skelly and Ethan Waneri, to step forward and show maybe some of Europe hasn't seen what they're capable of so far. along
And
with maybe an Odegaard that's reawakened a little bit. Hopefully,
and look at
Yeah,
where they are.
it's because. Go
Go on,
ahead,
Sam.
Stan.
I was just going to say,
Ah,
just look at where they
yeah.
are in their careers, being so young, and here they are going into a quarter-final game against Real Madrid. I mean, this, if at the beginning of the season, if you'd ask them if they could foretell what was going to happen, I bet this wasn't on the cards,
Mm,
and they've earned it. And I will just say as well before I close here for Tony
yeah.
that we know that Saka's coming back. He's being worked in. He's doing training, and maybe it'd be a case that not to rush him back, that he doesn't have to play a whole game because we can share that position with him and Minari to take up the slack to make sure,
Yeah.
just to make sure that we ease Saka back nicely. But
Yeah.
when he is running at 100% or near 100%, and he can go longer in games, I'm interested to see if we find a way to somehow fit Waneri into the squad as well as Saka at times,
Mhm.
because you know, although it is nice to know that you've got a nuclear bomb sat on your bench, that if things are going wrong, you see
Mhm.
Waneri warming up, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to empty the cat litter now. They're just bringing on another body. You see
Mhm.
him warming up, you're like, oh, something could happen here. Something could
Yeah.
go down.
Yeah. Tony.
I forgot exactly what I was going to say there, but
Yeah.
I did have the basket question because in La Liga, both Real Madrid and Barcelona played 28 games. Madrid's three points back, so they're going to be putting more into the La Liga basket or more into the
Interesting.
Champions League
Yeah.
basket.
Yeah. Interesting. So Tony's basically posing the point that okay, Arsenal are going to remain second. We're not essentially in a title race, So we can maybe, although Mikel Arteta probably won't do this, we can rest some legs leading up to the Champions League game with Madrid. But Madrid maybe can't do the same thing because of the pressure they're going to be under with Barcelona and Atletico Madrid around them. Stan.
Right now, yes, it's nice to try and maintain second, but right now I'd be like, we're not in a title race anymore. Okay, let's get that into our heads, lads. That's what I'd be saying
Yeah.
in the changing room. However, right now we're still in with a shout for to be the best in Europe. So it's not all doom and gloom. And as Red John said in the chat, which I totally forgot about, is that apparently we've never lost against Real Madrid. It's always
Yeah.
a nice. That's always a nice little stat to have in your back pocket.
It's a
You know what I
nice
mean?
one to
If
hang
you're
on to.
playing Uno, it's a nice Uno card to pull out there.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
that's
mhm.
got to stand for something, right? And I don't think there's no more away goals. Is that right? The away
Correct.
goal rule is no longer
Lego
part.
rules is gone, so it's gonna be. It could be a case where in Madrid in the second leg, maybe we get to a extra time situation.
But they're good,
You know
aren't
what I
they?
mean?
But they are good, and they can even go through. They're the team that they can go for a couple of legs, looking like they could get whooped, but they go right down to the penalty. They take it right down. They squeeze the last bit of juice out of it, and walk
Mhm.
away through to the next round. And then you get
Yeah.
you get the Don Carlo Arbrow treatment. Do you know what I mean?
And
They are good.
last year was the epitome of that because they were not good in the Champions League. Then they turned it around, and now they have another title in their trophy case.
Yeah. As Red
And
John
it
said,
kind of came.
Madrid do have a secret weapon on the bench, Brahim Diaz. Whenever
It's
their
so.
chips are down, he comes off the bench and scores the most clutch of goals. You know. Um, we have somebody else joining here. I think we have the WTT in the house. All right.
What, Gary?
Gary's in the house.
What,
Hello,
Gaz?
hello, hello, hello,
Hello,
Ray. Hello,
Gary.
Tona. Hello, Stan. Hello,
Hello.
everybody in the chat.
So yeah,
We got the whole gang back together. Look at us.
Let's ask Gary. Gary, what do you reckon? Right, we've got enough about us to beat Real Madrid. If we, you know what I mean, it's not totally out of the realm of reasoning, is it?
I mean, if we lean on our strength, what is our strength, right? We know what our strength is, right? Defense, and You know,
nicking a goal.
and their strength is their offense. So it's all a matter of, can we get something out of our attack? And if we can, their defense is leaky.
Yeah.
All you need is one sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And if we're able to score 2 goals in 2 games, I think we have a chance. But the trick is, can our defense hold up?
Gary, are we better matched up to Real Madrid rather than Atletico Madrid?
I think Atletico is the teams that kind of is the type of team that would give us even more problems, because they are more defensively sound, and we can't do with it. No, we can't deal with that. We see. I mean, think about the Premier League teams that are defensively sound. They don't make too many mistakes, and we can't punish anybody when they do. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
As Red John said, honestly, if Barcelona can beat Madrid, we can too. This crappy Man United team beat Barcelona in the Europa League last season. If I remember correctly, Rashford turned up at Nou Camp and dropped a deuce, dropped 2 goals.
It is that individual talent. I mean, you've got Bellingham, who is just brilliant, fantastic player. Rodrigo sometimes gets a little bit overlooked by Vini Jr. and Mbappe, but Rodrigo is an excellent player. I mean, sometimes the word world class is bandied around quite a lot, a bit loosely, to players that are very good but not world class. But just those ones I've mentioned and more in that team are world class. There's no doubt about it. No doubt. Bellingham, Rodrigo, Vini Jr., Mbappe, they're world class. And then there's a lot of other players in that team which are very, very good. Do you know what I mean?
Those players will test our back four.
And they've got a world-class manager as well. They've got a world-class manager.
Another thing I
don't know what he does. I don't know if he wears a tracksuit on training days. I don't know what he does, but he's able to get a tune out of the players that must have some of the biggest egos in football and some of the biggest pages, and he's able to somehow control that and direct it and get results. So you got to take your hat off.
Four of those players could be banned from.
Yeah, I know you sent me this. I just don't feel like it's going to happen to Real Madrid. Real Madrid will not get struck down by 4 players.
Really quickly behind you. Oh, who's that?
By 4 players.
You're being burgled.
Hey, it must have been Jesus. Look the way the room lit up.
It just doesn't happen to Real Madrid. I know you sent me that link, but I just can't see it happening. Gary, does these things happen to Real Madrid? 4 players get suspended.
There's no way. I mean, people, there's so many other scenarios that are similar to what they did after a game, right? Somebody chokes, they choke, right? And that's basically what they did. They're, it's, what it is? It's a filler. I mean, it's in an international break. They needed filler. Guess what? Real Madrid might be out. 4 players.
Yeah. Help the newspapers out. Vinny Rodrigo and Aldo.
They're like journalists sat in a room, weren't they? Like, throwing darts at a dartboard going, so what are we going to do today? I don't know. One of them's like, do you fancy an early lunch? We could come up with something and have an early lunch. And someone goes, I know. Why don't we say that? Some of those world-class players in Madrid might not even play. Yeah, I could knock that out. 20 minutes, boom, early lunch.
Yeah. BX Gunner says we need a goal-orientated front man, a striker that isn't shy to have a go. And that's what we saw in Alexander Isak in the Carabao Cup. Gary, what? This was a player driven. I'm going to go back to this Newcastle striker thing, Isak. This was a player who's driven to be known. And, if you want to get a move, you up your performances and you play well and you win a trophy.
Not your ball.
You win a trophy for your club. What do you see about the situation of Isak and Newcastle, Gary?
Well, I think it's all down to where they finish it. So until that happens, we won't.
Do you think it depends solely on where they finish? If he gets Champions League football, he'd be happy to stay there?
Definitely. He's not going to want to leave them when he's helped them win a trophy and finish in the top in a Champions League position. Well,
no disrespect to Newcastle, but they're not going to win the Champions League, right? They're not.
No.
Maybe not.
Yeah, but like some people say the same thing for us.
True.
I mean, that's all I hear. You're in it, but you're not gonna. Even if you beat Real Madrid, you're not gonna win it, right? So
Yeah.
the trick is you just need to be in it, and then you give yourself a chance, right?
If we beat Real Madrid, we play Aston Villa probably or PSG, which
We
will be
don't
a
have an
tough
easy
game.
run to get through because the
Nope.
PSG or Villa give us different issues, and then if we
And
make it to
then
the next, and then after that, it's like what
Barcelona maybe on the other
Barcelona,
side.
right? And then they have the same issue. They're more sound than Real Madrid is in terms of their quality of their
Yeah.
players front to back. You were
Yeah.
saying something about Arsenal might need a player that might want to take the shot. Uh,
Yeah.
in where he might want to take the shot. Just give him
Yeah.
the damn ball.
Yeah.
But if you don't play him, if you don't start him, if you don't give him substantial minutes, you won't get that chance. But I think they need to give that kid more minutes or start or something because right now he's the best attacker we got. The best, even the best attacker we got. Give him a chance.
Put Lawrence in goal versus Madrid. We got this. So David Raya step aside.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And I want to say, Alonso, it was Tony who was talking about the Madrid players missing. Gary does not believe that will happen. I don't believe that will happen. And I don't think Stan believes that will happen. You know?
No, it's fucking X-Files, isn't it?
Yeah. PSG versus Arsenal in the semifinals. So, yeah, we're going to beat Real Madrid. We're going to beat PSG. And we're going to beat Barcelona. It'll be the best Champions League win ever by Arsenal because it'll be the first. Hey, you gotta listen. You gotta enjoy this. Maybe bring some gallows humor to it as well.
Yeah.
But we do have two glamour games coming up against Real Madrid that we have to savor. Right,
Got
Gary?
180 minutes, man. 180 minutes. You just leave it all on the pitch.
Yep.
Arteta has to have a really good day managing the players. The players have to have a good day all around, and give yourself a chance. Defensively, nobody's scored more than 2 goals on us this season.
Hmm.
That's that we should be. If we can't lean on that, then yeah, we're gonna have problems.
Yeah,
Right? If they score 3 goals in a game, I think we have problems.
and it comes down to, I think, Stan. It comes down to making the first leg like an English a Premier League game almost. As Gary said, be defensively sound, be tough at the back, maybe win the game with a set piece or two.
Yeah, try and get more than one goal at home. Put the pressure on them a little bit. But a question I just wanted to ask now that Gary's joined us as well, and to all of you, and in the chat box as well. If you were going to go in to make a bid for Alexander Isak, how much do you think that we should be prepared to go in and spend? Do you have a limit? For me, I just say my limit would be 125 million pounds.
I would say 140.
I would speak to the player first, let him know that we're gonna, make him a nice sizable contract that he's happy with, sweeten him up, and tell him that we have an intent to go to his club and make a good offer. But I would go in at 110 first, so I could say to them, look, we're willing to break our transfer record for this lad.
Not by much.
Because our record's at 105, right? 100. I know, but it's just a start. It's a starting point because they might go, yeah, right, because they paid 60 for him, and that's a 50 million profit on top of what you paid. They might go, yeah, all right. If they don't, okay, you can go back and scratch your head a little bit and go, well, okay, but you know that you've set a limit to. Okay, I'm not going to go past
talking about an opening bid or what you're willing to spend?
My opening bid would be about 110.
Okay, but
you're willing to show that we're willing to break. But my ceiling would be like 125,
right?
Maybe 130.
I agree with Tiger and Gunnar here. That's the number I had. 140 would be the top, but probably go in about 115, 120. You know what I mean? So, Clary,
yeah, I don't think I'll go to 150.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think 130 is kind of the max I would go. Because then, if not, we start dipping into monies that we need for other positions because we still need a left wing.
And the other thing is, how deep do we go into the summer in negotiations?
No, you
You know
do
what I mean?
this. You do this early. We're either getting him early or we're moving on to our next target. I mean, there are more than enough strikers that are better than what we have right now, which is nothing. Right?
Arsenal are always
Right
late
now,
to the
right now
canteen.
we have no
Gary.
strikers. So anybody we bring in will be better than what we got right now. Right? We
Arsenal
don't.
are always late to the canteen, Gary. You know that, right?
Except for Pat Deji,
The
apparently.
food's cold when Arsenal get there, Gary.
Yeah, yeah, no. You got to go for Isaac if he's an option. He has to be the number one option. And if it doesn't play out, then it doesn't play out. All right. If he doesn't want to come here, he wants to go to Liverpool, then we have to just move on.
I
But we
don't
have no,
believe
we have more than enough options to make us better.
so. I don't believe he's going to go to Liverpool unless Liverpool have Salah moving on, or Salah's moving on, or they don't, give Salah what he wants.
Yeah.
I don't believe they're going to get Isak on top of Mo Salah as well. Do you know what I mean?
That's like saying they have Vinicius. They're not going to go out and get Mbappe, right? Because guess what? They have Vinny, and guess what? They went out and got Mbappe.
What?
So, in
But
reality, yes, you can go out there and get a player who's
but
just as good, if not better, than what you got. All right.
but Madrid do these things on freeze,
Yeah,
right?
but Premier League
Like
has the
they get
money.
players
So
on free.
yeah, but Premier League has the money, all right? So if they want to spend it, they can, all right? Liverpool can spend it if they wanted to.
Mhm.
They didn't spend any money in the summer. They didn't spend any money in January. So if you're telling me that PPS or whatever, that PSR or whatever, they
Mhm.
should be pretty much fine to go out there and spend money if PSR is
Wow.
what we think it is,
Yeah.
right? And
What you're
if their
what you
value is as high as we think it is, right?
yeah.
Their value should be higher than ours, I believe, right? And if that's the case, and they haven't spent any money, then they should have monies to
What you're
purchase and take
telling
one
me,
player.
Gary. What you're telling me is that Liverpool haven't spent last summer really, and haven't spent in January. They've mirrored what we've been doing, and we'll be probably fighting in the transfer market with Liverpool this summer for maybe the same players. You know what I mean? Um, which is, it's not something you really want. Isaac is only worth it if he's willing to riot and not turn up to training to join us. It's not worth going for a player who doesn't care too much whether he stays in Newcastle or moves. I just listen. I know Newcastle's a team; they've won the Carabao Cup, but unless you can see Newcastle going again into the transfer market and getting more players,
Hmm.
why would Isak stay there?
There is something called professionalism, and we saw that with Declan Rice, right? He basically said, "I'm leaving," and they basically said, "As long as we get our number, we're good." And that's what happened. So I don't think you have to play this cutthroat deal like Bamiyang did. We saw that worked out for him at the end of his days at Arsenal, right?
Mhm.
Basically, so if it happens to one team, it could happen to you, right? So I mean, a man was in Barcelona, right, when he's supposed to be preparing for a game with
Yeah,
Arsenal.
yeah.
So there you go. So now I think he can talk to the team, and I think he should be able to talk to the team and tell them what he wants to do. And if they get the number they want, then they should let him go, right? When a player says he wants to leave and he has an option, let him go. I mean,
Now it does sound the recent vibes coming from Newcastle is that he's not willing to extend or talk about extending his contract. He does have a three.
Does it need to though? He's got 3 years left though, right? He's got 3
He's
years
got
left
three
in his
years.
contract.
He's
Does
got
he
3 years left. He's 25 years old, Stan. But
He signed for 6 years, right? He's got three
yeah,
left.
but he doesn't want to sign on for another 2 or 3, so that would leave him until 30 years old at Newcastle. I know at 2 years out you can still sell a player. 2 years out you retain the value. You know what I mean? But I don't think Isak wants to get locked in like Harry Kane used to get locked in at Tottenham. You know. So I think Isak and his advisors are leaving options open for themselves this summer. I mean, the player, Gary and Stan, the player has not moved to shut down any of the rumors about him leaving. He's not come out and said he's committed to Newcastle. You know what I mean?
He said he's happy there. He has said, "I'm happy here. I'm enjoying, my football
well,
here." But it's very rare that a football will, you know, put in a transfer request. You don't see that a lot these days, do you? That a player's actually gone to the club and say, I'm putting in a formal transfer request, because that information then goes out.
Yeah.
Very, very rare that they do that. So yeah, he could drag his feet signing a new contract. They could still keep him for another year, and then there's 2 years left. They don't necessarily have to sell him this summer, but do you want to keep a player that's unhappy? It all depends on how unhappy he is behind the scenes. Right?
Yeah.
It's all well and good him coming out saying, yeah, I love living in Newcastle and blah, blah, blah. But if he's not happy behind the scenes, so it's all about, there's a lot of components to it, right?
Yeah. And they love him up there.
Should Newcastle qualify for the Champions League, they'll hold that over him, because, as I mentioned, there's like some sort of a gentleman's agreement that if they don't qualify, then they will listen to offers, because that's where he wants to be. But if they get into the Champions League, they're like, well, we're in the Champions League, so why do you want to leave?
I think you need to resign yourself to Newcastle being in the Champions League next season, because I think there's 5 places now for Champions League next year, and I looked at their fixture list, and it doesn't look terrible for Newcastle. It looks like they might pick up a decent amount of points, and I just don't see the 6th, 7th, 8th place teams getting in there. Nottingham Forest might hold, City might hold, and Newcastle may hold their positions as well.
If they get into the Champions League, and on top of that, they put a big contract down on the table, because which gives them a big boost, then what's he going to say?
Yeah.
More money, and you're in the Champions League. So now what?
It's just tough when you come to a Premier League club that can, because the money in the Premier League, there's a lot of money moving around the Premier League, and teams don't necessarily need to sell players anymore. They're pretty fluid with their money, right? It puts players like Harry Kane and Isak in difficult positions, Gary, if they want to move.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying if you can be professional about it, then maybe you get what you want out of it. That's why I'm saying, like, if you want to leave, then you need to let them know, and then I think it'll work out probably in your favor, especially when you're a player at that level, right? He doesn't really rock the boat or anything like that. He's not out there screaming or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know. So if he tells the team, "Look, I want to go," and the team, that's on Newcastle, right? If it comes from the agent and stuff, then yeah, that's on his side. I just think if you do it professionally, it can work out, and everybody's happy. They get the money they want, because especially as soon as people know, as soon as they go, we're selling this player, and they talk to an Arsenal or they talk to whoever out there might be interested, then that number will hit. It will. Somebody will pay it, whatever number they're looking for.
But because I've got so much money behind them, aren't they? Apparently, on paper, they're the wealthiest club in the world. They could, if they do deliver in the Champions League, they can turn around and say, "Look, whatever team you're talking to, we can match what they're offering you," because they can financially. They're not paupers, so it's going to have to take him to say, "I don't care how much you're offering me. I fucking hate it here," or something. Do you know what I mean?
Like I said, you don't have to say that. You can just say, "I'm leaving."
I don't
right?
like the birds. It's going to be something. I don't like the food.
It's really tough if you're a Newcastle fan. You've seen Isak, and he's a great player, and he scored goals to bring you the first trophy in 50, 60, 70 years then. And Newcastle are a team on the up. No reason to leave, says BX Gunner. But after the game, he's shaking hands with Van Dijk, and Van Dijk's whispering something in his ear. And after the game, Thierry Henry's on the sideline because he's a pundit, and he's talking to Isak. And you wear that number 14 shirt like I used to wear that number 14 in Arsenal. It's got to be hard if you're Alexander Isak, and your worth is growing and growing. And are Newcastle going to be the team to bring it forward? It's a little bit like Lewis Hamilton. Is Mercedes going to be the team to bring you forward to that 8th championship, or should I jump ship and move to a Ferrari?
I know you got a lot. I probably guys will say. I know they might have a lot of money, but if you buy something for 63 million pounds, and then someone wants to buy it from you for 150 million pounds, do you go for it because it's a good profit, right? Do you think, fuck it, wow, okay.
Yeah. And Arsenal tried this with Ollie Watkins to a lesser extent at Aston Villa, knowing that maybe the value of Ollie Watkins is going to go down, and I think Arsenal may go back. We talked about Jonathan David, but
I think that was I think they should have just paid the extra.
40.
Just pay
50.
whatever they wanted, because for me, especially if they needed a striker and if they went after him at the beginning of the window and they got him, we still were in 4 tournaments. We still had 4 opportunities to win a trophy at that point.
Yeah.
You're telling me we wouldn't get past United, or we might be able to challenge with Newcastle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we had a striker in the squad, you know
The
what I mean?
problem is,
But Gary,
problem is,
if you was Arteta, right, in that situation, and the owners then turned around to you and said, "All right, we'll give you the money so that you can go and get Ollie Watkins. You ain't getting the money for Isak. It's one or the other in the summer, so it's up to you." What would you do in that situation?
But if I tell them if I walk away with a trophy, are you going to still say that? If I walk away with a trophy, are you still going to say that? I'm still in 4. I still have 4
with the Carabao
opportunities.
Cup,
I have 4 opportunities to get a trophy, and if you recall, we've drawn games.
But what would you do? But what would you
We've
do?
drawn. How many games have we drawn since then in the Premier League? We would be even closer if we had a striker. I think we would be able to score at least 1 goal against West Ham. We might have been able to score the 1 goal against Forest, right? We might have been able to score the 3rd goal against Villa.
And that's the thing I said.
If we had a striker, that's basically 6 to 9 points that we didn't. 6 points that we basically gave away there, right? So for me, that's kind of my thinking there. But also on the Newcastle thing, if Newcastle goes to the Champions League, right? We've seen this, right? Are they going to bring in with all the money they have enough players to support playing in the Champions League? Because we know what it takes to play in there, and we saw how they struggled this season just playing the three
Look at Aston Villa, right? Sorry, look at Aston Villa right now.
You have to have a deep squad, right? Are they going to get enough players that when Bruno's out, when Isak is out, because he's been out, right? He hasn't been consistent for them in terms of availability. When he's out, right? And, they had to deal with their defensive players being out for a bit. What happens when that happens? Yes, I say when they go into the Champions League, it's going to be a harder deal. But also, they have to think about, will we even to be able to support playing in the Champions League? Because it's not easy.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it this season, even, Gary, with Aston Villa. They had a good season last season and played really well in Champions League in the early part of this year or this season. They're in a quarterfinal stand, but their league position is being compromised by that. So Gary's right. You gotta fortify. You gotta build your squad up more if you want to go full tilt Premier League and Champions League.
I mean, I hear what Gary's saying with that choice. If the choice was made to me, it would be one of those decisions that I would agonize over because I see good outcomes in both situations. But I suppose because I'm not being given that money and authority to do it, and I'm just sat here in a podcast, it's easier for me to say that I would probably wait for the.
If you had that money, you wouldn't be here.
The reason I say that is because I think that longer term, I could get more out of Isak. But if I was in that situation and there's that chance, well, if I get Watkins now, I get it. It's a hard decision, but I wonder if that was kind of put to him. If he was given,
you know what? If
not in so many finer terms, but we can give you X amount now, but in the summer, you might not have. You're eating into that fund in the summer.
They can't treat me like that if I'm Arteta. If they said you will bite it, you will take a bite out of your Isak money if you spend money on Ollie Watkins. They better get Isak. He better be the first player that comes through the door. None of this Zubermendi stuff. No. You know what I mean? Like for me, I don't think you can look to this is what the problem I think with that kind of approach. You can't look to the future. Isak may not finish this season.
Basically,
But guess
Gary
what?
doesn't trust him. He's like, I ain't no. I
No,
want the
no, I
money now.
want Ollie
thank you.
Watkins. I want something I can see and touch today, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like that birthday Christmas present or whatever. And your parents are like, guess what? Just wait until wait 3 months, and then I get it for you. And you're like, dude, I can get this right now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know what? I'll just get this right now because in 3 months you might tell me I lost my job and I can't afford your birthday present anymore. Nah, dude, give me
Yeah.
what I
We
want it right now. Ollie
yeah.
Watkins is a now player, and Ollie Watkins would have helped us. And even
We
if
are
we
not
said
privileged.
and if he
We,
had a good time with us, guess what? We could still sell him, right?
yeah. Yeah. We are not privileged. We get accused of being privileged as Arsenal fans. We're impatient. We've waited enough. We've waited long enough now. They're talking about Arsenal 21 years since we won the Premier League. You know,
fucking ages, isn't it?
not our European record. We can't, as Stan says, we can't sit at the table with other fans
Yeah.
and tout our European record because we don't have that. You know, we're in a window now where we have good players at the team.
We
In
don't
the
sit at
team.
that table. We wait on the people that sit on that table. We bring them their food and their drinks and their starters. You
We
know what I mean?
have a squad of 25 players and we probably have 15 good ones that we could go to war with. But there's 8 or 9. They're like, I don't know. I don't know about these 8 or 9. They're not fit enough all the time. They're not strong enough and not mentally strong enough and not good enough.
Which is why I say for Gary's benefit, because he missed it, is that when we were talking about buying a forward, I'm very much of the opinion that we should do what we did with Declan Rice, and that we should be going out to buy the best in class. None of this project stuff, none of this, well, you know, we're going to buy this guy who's coming in and he's a prospect. We should be past that. We don't have the time. We don't have time for that in that position. If you want to buy one of those as a backup to the best in class, I'm all for it. You know, why can't we get an Isak and bring David in on a free? If we can't get Isak, then we should be looking at Giroki's. I can never say his name, Victor. We'll buy Victor,
Joker.
but we can still bring in David on a free because you know we need a little bit more than that. After Giroki's, who is? I mean, someone in the chat said Osimhen. It's like he's disappeared off the face of the planet. No one talks about him anymore. What happened to this guy?
In
What
Turkey.
happened to Osimhen?
Yeah.
Is he not an option?
I think he's doing well. I think he's having a good season for them. But obviously, it's a step down. It's like a step in class down a little bit, you know, from the bigger European leagues. But a player I would not turn my nose up at Osimhen.
No,
For sure.
no,
He's proven in Italy.
international level as well.
Yeah. Newcastle could sign some quality and become the new Man City, says BX Gunner. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Newcastle. As Gary said, you can't go into the Champions League with the squad that they have right now and expect to be qualifying for the Champions League and maybe winning the Champions League. So qualifying in the league in the top 4 or 5 places consistently every year and having a chance to go to a semi-final or a quarterfinal. This is the situation, and the season we've had, it's been a very disappointing season. And, you know, it's depressed me in some ways. I've been Arsenal depressed, as I said to Stan and Tony, Gary. I've been Arsenal depressed the last month or so because Liverpool stole a march on us this season. And we've had injuries and we've had issues with officiating. And we haven't been good enough to close the gap. We've not won more than 3 games in the league together this season. And that's not been good enough. And we Liverpool are a good team, but we should be up there with them. And I know you know that, and you've said it because we've drawn 10 games, and you probably know how many of them we've been leading in those games.
I think 6.
So, like you said, I'm stealing your lines here, Gary. Like you said, you
That's
win
12
3 or
points.
4 of those, you're
Well, no,
6
that's
to 8
12
points closer.
Yeah, 12 points, and you're basically sitting there with them. Now, I was looking at there's
listen to you, Gary. See?
yeah, no, yeah. So there's a message in there about getting Clivers and Bueno and David for the same price as Isak, and I'm like looking. They combined had 41 goals scored this season. So
Yeah.
41 compared to the 19 Isak gives you.
Yeah.
You know, so you have different approaches if you want to spend the money, but I just feel like we have players that a Kai Havertz who's getting us double digit goals, who might be the Clivert or the Bueno if he's not starting, right? Donovan David is free, so he might be the best choice because you don't have to pay for him to transfer. You just got to pay him the money so he can either, if he wants to play along with us. But yeah, no, like I said, I kind of feel like Isak is, if he has an option and you can get him, you go get him. If he doesn't, then you just find that out sooner than later.
He just,
I don't like the way Arsenal drags it out, anyways. You have two numbers in your head: first bid, second bid, and then if it's more than that and it bites into your budget, you move on.
he just comes with a hefty price tag. You know
It's
what I
what
mean?
we paid 100 for
Right.
Rice, so we
Yeah.
can't turn around and say, guess what? Guess what? And Isak is playing better than Rice was
Yeah.
in terms of
And
like
I
I think the level that you're getting out of Isak is better than what Rice was giving
I
him.
believe I believe we're ready to do that again, Gary, because we did it 2 seasons ago, as you said, with Rice. Last season was more of a selling, or recouping the losses of the year before. The
No.
the club needs to be ready to go again. Uh,
Hmm.
we we basically, I hate the term, but we basically binned off the Premier League because we didn't acquit ourselves in January, because of the injuries we knew that we had. Um,
Yeah.
in that Manchester United game in the FA Cup that you mentioned, Gabriel Jesus had a season-ending injury,
Hmm.
and Bukayo Saka was already injured at that point on 21st of December. We knew what we needed to do on the 21st of December when Bukayo Saka was injured for 3 or 4 months. If we were going to do anything in the season, the window was going to open within a matter of days that we could do something. We didn't do anything. And that's usually disappointing because, a lot of us fans and the optimistic ones, myself amongst them, thought, oh, well, surely the club's going to go out and get a player that's going to help us compete with Liverpool and make the Premier League competitive. Well, nothing happened in the whole month of January. And is that because Edu wasn't there? Is that because Jason Ato was there? And we have now, I think, a new sporting director about to take. Has he joined the club yet, Gary? Berta?
No announcement yet, but it's basically a done deal. I, but supposedly he's working behind the scenes, so we're not losing any. You're not losing anything by not announcing it. But I don't understand why we can't, why it hasn't been like made official to the masses.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And this, listen, you can criticize the club for a lot of things of pandering to Mikel Arteta, but I think this could be a guy who will hold his feet to the fire a little bit. You know, he's worked with Diego Simeone before, so I think this is a sporting director who will do what needs to be done and work with Mikel Arteta. I have a good feeling about it. It feels very on Arsenal, and for me, that's probably a good sign, right? That this feels a little bit foreign. It might be a guy that Mikel Arteta's not exactly comfortable with, but I think we all know that guy when you at work, right? Who is cozy with the boss.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
we always said we needed somebody who's like not going to say yes to everything
Yeah.
Arteta wants, right? And
I think we know that guy at work who's cozy with the owners, right? And
Mhm.
he goes and he talks to the owners and gets what he needs. Well, you have to work with that guy. I don't know. I've got maybe some people have that person in mind in their life. You know what I mean? But it does feel like Mikel Arteta needs to work with this guy, and it'll be somewhat transformative. Transformative, I think. I don't think they had faith in Arteta's taking ID and money spending. Talent ID and money spending.
Maybe they
So
can't formally announce it until the beginning of next month, which will be unfortunate for Arsenal because that will be April the 1st, and everyone will think it's an April Fool's joke and not believe it.
yeah, April 1st. Yeah, but he's done some things with Atletico Madrid that has been interesting in his career. So listen, hopefully this is the sporting director that we need to be able to get that because there's not too many proven strikers on in the world, right? And they have egos, and they need to be dealt with in the right way. I believe, you know, to bring an Alexander Isak to Arsenal it could need no Alberta, Nicola Alberta, or what's his name again?
Carlos Berta.
Carlos Alberta.
Carlos Berta.
Okay, Carlos Berta.
Berta. Yeah. Making a
Yeah,
you guys haven't even. I don't know if you guys have mentioned Sesko, but I think if you haven't mentioned him, I think that's a good thing.
Let's get into it. We can do Jokeres. Like Stan has been talking about Jokeres and Sesko. So, Gary, a lot of Arsenal fans turn their nose up at Sesko because, they don't think he's clinical enough and put him alongside Isak. Okay, there's a price difference, and it probably will reflect that in the efficiency of the player if we bring him in.
If they haven't been able to sell him for 2 windows now, how can you not sell Sesko to Arsenal in the last 2 windows? What about we don't have a striker? Does he not see?
Are they waiting till his value goes up and up? So it was 60 million last summer. What's it going to be this summer?
But the thing is, Arsenal doesn't like to pay the
premium,
the transfer fee, right?
Yeah.
So they want to pay a little bit more anyway. So if the transfer fee is low, and say it was 50, because I think that's what it was in the summer, and you don't want to pay the 50 up front, right? You want to spread it, and you said, look, here's 65, 70, spread it out over the whatever 2-3 years or whatever. Give me my player. All right. But the player, but I sound like the player didn't even want to come. I don't know how you can't sell Sesko to this team. I mean, what does he not see? What does he see that is he really scared that Kai Havertz is going to take his position? Is he scared that Jesus, who's injury prone over the last 3 seasons now, is going to be the threat? No, he's like I said, how can they have not sold him on this team? And then the price what he wants to say, so his price goes up. Arsenal would have paid whatever, and that would have got and they would have got the money.
I feel like Leipzig are managing the situation so that his value increases.
Arsenal would have paid the same money, I think, if they spread out the payments.
But did Arsenal have the will to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, and
they've talked to him through 2 windows, right?
Talked to them early in the summer.
The club, right? And at the end of they need to talk to the club. They can talk to the player, but it's the club that's going to make the deal, not the player.
And Leipzig are pretty good at turning a profit. They bring players in at a reasonable price, and they're able to play them in their team. Maybe in most cases, establish themselves in the Champions League. Qualify in the top 4 of the Bundesliga, and be able to sell players as well. So they have an interesting model as well. Leipzig do, and a lot like Dortmund, I would say as well. I'm not as knowledgeable in the Bundesliga, but I do feel like Leipzig are up there most seasons in the top 4 or 5. Ben White's hooliganism in goal could be good against. Okay, I got a private chat from somebody.
You know what? If you try, I always tell the kids like bees to honey, and somebody doesn't agree with that at all.
It has to be Tony, right? So StreamYard doesn't exactly show up when people come in. So I will just say it was Tony, and he said something rhymes a little bit like "Let me in, you, a large Irish duck." All right,
basically,
something like that. Yeah.
Do you know what I would like to know? I would like to know if somebody like Isak or Giwalker is sitting there knowing that there's talk around them about moving. They're seeing certain clubs get mentioned. Surely you're looking at some of the clubs that are being mentioned, and you're thinking to yourself, could I fit in there? If I was in that team with those guys, I'd be able to run riot. I'd clean up the gut. These are the things that I'd be thinking about because the money is probably going to be around about the same, not too much difference per club. So I mean, is that looking at Arsenal and is he saying, I'm the finished piece? I'm that one piece that they're missing. If I go there, or is he doing that about Liverpool? That's what I'd like to. I'd like to get into their heads and understand what they're seeing. Like Gary said, apparently there's been chats with Sesko, and that didn't really happen. So, did he not have the balls? Did he think if I go there and be the main man? And that could be another thing. Maybe Sesko, maybe Isak looks at it and goes, I could go to Arsenal, love the way they play and that, but you make one mistake there, the fans start threatening your wife and shit. I don't know if I need any of that. I don't know. That doesn't seem to happen at Liverpool. Go to Liverpool. You know what I mean?
They do that at Liverpool. They do that at Liverpool too. Nunes got some pelters.
I think that happens at every club. It might just be a handful of people, but it happens.
There's stupid people all over the world, all over the country.
It's like it doesn't matter
whatever country you pick, they're all over the country. You know what I mean? There's stupid people.
Like in college football, where there's more in football than it is in basketball, but you always have the officials threaten their lives, and that doesn't matter what two teams play in. It just, if they feel like there's a cheat, they take it out on the ref and they say something like killing them. But right, if you look on your right side where you see a little circle video, if you click that, then you see everybody that's in the video and everybody that wants in the video.
Yeah, and then if I don't see that, I get something in the private chat. That's abusing me. Calling me names.
well, waited for like 10 minutes. So.
And Alonso said he's going to join us at the start of the podcast. He said he's going to join us, but we know Alonso. It's going to be the last 5 minutes.
Plus an hour when Ray's about ready to fall asleep.
Yeah, in about an hour I'll be ready to fall asleep. Exactly.
Or when you fall asleep.
Saka and Ben White are needed if we want to return to the set piece dominance. So our set pieces have not been as prolific or as good without Bukayo Saka on one side and Declan Rice on the other side. I wonder if we get those players back on the field, if that will return. You know what I mean? Our dominance of set pieces. And that could be a way to beat Real Madrid as well. I think we could definitely have the edge on them over in set pieces.
I thought when Harry did good on the set pieces, I just don't think he plays enough to do them if you're starting. I mean, does fine at them. I think it's more that all these teams have went to putting all this effort into set pieces, and they've kind of figured out what we do, and we've stopped doing that thing where we do the offside trap and we still time it perfectly. That's hard to do, and that takes lots of practice. And so you got these guys that haven't done it for their first team. They might have been training with the youngsters or whatever, but it's something that they haven't done all the time, so they're not as accurate. And timing the run of 5 people going forward, that's hard to do.
How viable is Tomiyasu as striker against Real Madrid? Not very viable, I would say.
It's been White. Ben White's still our first choice right back.
Ben White.
He's been fit for a while on the bench, hasn't he?
He's probably been nursed back from his injury a little bit and hasn't probably progressed as much. I hope it's not a precursor to what we will see with Bukayo Saka. I hate saying that, but we have to be very, very careful about Bukayo Saka as well. I know the striker we need, Alessia Russo, the woman who scored 4 goals, 2 of them offside against Real Madrid, and I think 2 of those weren't even offside. At least one of them didn't look offside.
She wasn't the one who was offside on one.
somebody else.
the person that put the cross in. So
Okay.
Don't you have to go to Spain and try to get Nico Williams for?
we need the number one priority for me, striker. Get me to striker first, and then we'll figure out what to do next.
Well, you need strikers and you need wing.
No, number one priority, striker for me.
Yeah, but they're not going to do what they need to do and buy at least 2 strikers.
Number one striker.
Number one priority, striker for me. That's all I'll keep saying that.
Here's Tiger and Gunner. I'll be in touch with you on that one, and I'll drop some comments on this stream as well.
Number 2 on the list is striker as well, Gary.
Let's get the first one.
Number 1 and number 2. 2 strikers.
Isaac. Then what? Who's the second striker? David
or Watkins, right?
No, you can't afford Watkins if you spend the money on Isaac.
Timber has been, this is true. Timber has probably been our best defensive player this season. I think Gabriel Magalhaes has been a rock at the back as well. Saliba has had a couple of dodgy games where he's given away yellow cards here and there. Don't raffle.
And Gabriel does it too by being vocal with the players. He's vocal on the set pieces. He'll go set up there and come back and see what they're doing. And 90% of the time on those set pieces, the ball is hitting his head.
We were talking about this a little bit. So Stan, what's your thoughts on Bukayo Saka? And he's coming back to training. I think there's some notification that he's back in training at Arsenal. And how many days away from this first leg of the quarterfinal? And what should Arsenal do with Bukayo Saka? Should he be on the bench for the first leg and play a bigger part in the second leg?
There are some players that return from this injury and they're never the same after it. So we need to make sure that we do everything that we can, that we take as much care and not, the last thing I want to see is him, and we've seen it before, not only with our team, but with other teams where a player comes back from a long injury and they break down in their first appearance and then they're out again. Let's do everything to try and avoid that. For me, there's no rush.
Yeah, Reece James had the same surgery, I believe, and we saw how long it took him to come back. I mean, he pretty much spent a whole season still trying to get back into form. So if you rush it, you're just prolonging it. There's no reason to rush it, and we should have a squad that doesn't need Saka because
exactly, yeah,
we don't have the depth in other positions that hurts us even more than Saka being the only one out. Like we didn't have a legit striker, we didn't have legit wings. We didn't have a legit backup for Saka. I mean, that whole front line, we don't have the players, and Weary isn't allowed to play behind Erdegaard. So there you go. We don't have a legit player to sit behind to play behind Erdegaard either. So for our four, in my eyes, our four critical pieces to our attack, we don't have legit coverage. Or we don't have a legit starter. Pick one. All right. So that's at least 4 players. And it sounds like we need 5 if we need 2 strikers. So, I don't think Nweri should be. I think Nweri should go in the midfield. But, that's.
Well, do we think the best strategy is for Bukayo Saka to be a sub in the first game then? Getting some minutes in some of the league
really
games.
Depends on what the experts think and what they're seeing up close, right? It's going to be in training. He's going to be running around. He's going to be putting weight on the leg and all this sort of stuff. They've got to make that best decision. They've got to look at all their technical instruments and make a decision.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to start though.
And I mean, you have to protect the player from his own enthusiasm to want to play in this big game as well.
Yeah, he needs to curb his enthusiasm.
Yeah,
the manager as well.
Curb the manager as well, right, Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you had him coming back from a World Cup 2 years ago,
Yeah,
instead of setting out 2 weeks, he was right back at Boxing Day. They originally weren't to have games on Boxing Day, but they changed it, and he played for that. But what you have to do with him, I would treat it like preseason. You can put him out there for a half and bring him off. You got five substitutions, so you can make those changes. Do you want to take him off and put Winery out there, or start with Winery then put Saka in there? You can do it. You have choices, but
it's the tough
what?
thing because
And
as
if you
Red
ask the
John,
player, what do you think he's going to say? All right, lad. We've got Real Madrid in a few days. How you feeling? He's not going to go,
great.
yeah, I've had a bit of an headache and I'm going to sit back at home and have a limb sip. He's going to be, no, I'm great. I'm fine. You know, this is what
But
they
like
live
you
for,
said,
right? They're living for moments like this.
yeah, but they
Yeah,
have all those sensors and stuff on them. The training staff doesn't let him
yeah.
play if they
Um,
know he's still
My
in the red zone.
my fear with all of this, if Arteta thinks Saka is back, he's going to compromise his preparation with Arteta with Saka being back,
right, and
which
some
for
new.
me means that he won't pay enough attention to where he needs to, which is the other two or three positions that might actually play in the game. Because if Saka has a setback before he plays, and Arteta's planning for him to come in, guess what happens to we're back to square one trying to figure out who our front three is again. And I feel like his attention will be Saka's coming back. I got all the answers there. And what if Saka comes out and we can see it in that first 15, 20 minutes? He shouldn't be out there.
Yeah,
Will Arteta actually pull him and
Would you
say,
rather
guess
be in a
what?
place, Gary, where you're like, we'll bring you on if we need you? If we need you, because you
didn't
could get to a
yeah,
place in the game where you're going, you don't have to bring him on, right?
didn't something like this happen to Atletico Madrid when they played Real Madrid in one of the finals? You know, they played. Was it Diego Costa?
I
They
think
played
so. I
him,
think it was.
and he broke down after 10 minutes. You know, and that was the end of that for Atletico Madrid in the final. Red John said he needs to start. If all the medical doctors cleared him, he needs to start. We can rest Saka against Villa in the semi-finals. Um,
It's not only
I
about
expect,
fitness either, is it? It's about match sharpness, which
yeah,
Arthur Wenger love to
Yeah.
talk about. You know,
yeah,
he's going to be, I know he's a great player, but I'd rather be bringing him on than starting him and having to like reshuffle the deck because it ain't right.
I think that's the difference stand between being fit and
It's
match
gamble, isn't it?
fit.
It's a gamble.
To to me, match fit is like you're ready. You got all the mental stuff in you. You're up to full
you're
speed.
playing regularly. You're up to full speed. Yeah, which
But
he's
if you're
not
just
going to
fit,
be in the matter
nah,
of what 2 weeks. He's not going to be match fit. So
he,
he
he
probably,
won't be by the end of the season. I don't think.
yeah, he probably won't be starting either one of the games. He probably will be coming off from the bench, on from the bench. I think you're more likely to get injured off the bench than starting the game. The warm ups feels more rushed for subs.
Well,
A
that's
little bit,
where maybe he comes in the second half. That's where Arteta has to do things he's not prepared to do because we
yeah,
haven't seen it. If you go into instead of going into the locker room at halftime, he just sits out there and warms up, right? And then everybody knows he's coming on, and it doesn't really matter because if he's on the bench, he's coming in, right? If he's on the bench, he
yeah.
should be coming in at
It's
some
not
point,
like
especially
oh, you
even just to get
Deji
minutes, right? Even to get minutes or to
or
actually help us
Kabaya.
get across the line. So who cares if he's coming on? Because guess what? It hasn't stopped anybody yet if he's got the right, if he's got it. And if it doesn't work out, you pull him, right? You still pull him. You still 20 minutes of the second half, if it doesn't work, you pull him. But I like the idea of not starting him because, you know, you hurt yourself there. But maybe you bring him on the second half. I don't know. I think it's a catch 22, however you look at it, right? You warm him up and you get him out there, and then it doesn't play out, and then now you go into the going into the second game, he's not playing.
Yeah.
That mentally will be a big a big
Um,
negative on the mentality of the team. If he started the first in the first half, and he's probably done for a
and
couple of weeks.
we're playing with fire. If Arteta is going to rush him, we probably know we're playing with fire anyway. We know the tendencies of Mikel Arteta when it comes to Bukayo Saka, especially. What's the point in waiting for Saka to be fit when Arteta might not be around sacked by the time he is back when he ends the season trophyless? Listen, I don't know. I mean, every manager comes to the end of the road. Mikel Arteta's not going to be here in the year 2045. He won't be at Arsenal. The year is 2045.
Lenny of us.
Huh?
That's only 25 years. And how many years was Wenger here? 21?
22 years, yeah.
Yeah, 21,
So,
22.
Mikel Arteta's been at Arsenal for 27 years, and we still wait for a trophy. But
that's why I'm surprised that even though we've had the injuries, that there hasn't been the fans outrage that originally started, because it was them being tired of us being in the top four and not winning anything. And we haven't won anything. We've went out of a domestic cup record early times.
mhm.
And in those games, like I said, he'll play 5 starters to start the game. Then by the end of it, the other 5 starters come in. And now Ray has pretty much played all the cup games for whatever reason. So
David Raya.
yeah.
Yeah, because we fumbled the goalkeeper situation last season, and we had to get a loan, Neto. So we're gonna have to go get a goalkeeper this summer as well, and fix the situation from last
But
summer.
how do you screw that up when you have that much time to plan?
I don't know.
Knowing that you need another goalkeeper.
There's definitely a lot of criticism from last summer's transfer window.
Probably
And
because every time Edu told the club, I won't be in today. I'm going to be out on the road in the car, visiting players that we're looking at, and he's really going off at interviews. Do you know what I mean? His next
yeah,
job.
leave it. If I don't pick up, just leave a message and I'll get back to you.
Exactly.
Around midnight tonight, I should be home, and I'll respond to my email.
Call between 1 and 5. I have an important engagement. No, I always wear the suit.
I'm unable to.
You mean I'm all dressed up?
I'm unable to answer you. Please call the Arsenal front desk if you.
Meanwhile, he's outside in his back garden making Brazilian barbecue.
Mikel Arteta might be on the podcast for you guys when he's trophyless and sacked next season. Listen, the club is quite happy with Mikel Arteta right now, and things would have to go downhill fast.
Do you know what? I think that they won't get rid of Mikel Arteta. Basically, they ain't got it in them. They ain't got it in them to get rid of him and find someone else unless they really, 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 really have to.
Well,
they have no pressure to do.
Too much aggro. That's what they're like. They're not like
every season. Every season we say as fans, this is the season we're going to win something. It's got to happen. This team is progressing. The players that we have are too good not to fail. And we could have beaten Newcastle, as Gary said earlier. I think we could have beaten Newcastle if we were more efficient up front. Martinelli, Odegaard, Havertz missing gilt-edged chances in both of those legs. So what are the odds that Saka re-injures himself before the end of the season? There is a decent percentage, I would say, that Saka might re-injure himself before the end of the season. We don't want to say it, right? But I would say it's 25% that he re-injures himself before the end of the season.
What exactly was the injury? Torn quad? Is that what it was?
Hamstring.
Hamstring, yeah.
Just going back to that, Arteta being
pretty good tear.
The amount of money is already brought in from the Champions League. It's going to be 90 mil, 80 mil, something like that. If you finish,
it's 89 right now.
The amount of money that you get for finishing second. The Cronkies ain't going to sack him. They'll be like, "Cheers, thank you very much, good one. That's good money. We're in the Champions League.
Welcome
brought
to
in
the
his
assembly.
extra. That's how they look at it. That's not going to. They're not going to be like, oh, you didn't bring any trophies in your 5th season. Goodbye. No, they're going to be like, oh, you brought in some good wedge this season.
Well,
Good job. Good job. That's how they operate. That's how they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not like that Walker
and
geezer that was at Blackburn when it was like, I'm going to pour all my money in, but I need you to win the league. They're not looking at it in that way. For them, if you can get the money for second, which is good money, and you're 90 million from the Champions League, you've done really well.
Yeah. And Walker bought Shearer and he bought Sutton from Norwich. You know, SAS.
Stan, you're at 89 million now. How much do 2 games against Barcelona get you? Probably another
Real
30
Madrid.
million.
No, it's
Exactly.
not that
Yeah,
much.
Real
I think you
Madrid.
get, I think you get 100.
They are
I think you
happy.
get 130 if you win. I don't think it's that much more.
Yeah.
Maybe about 10, maybe another 10. Not much more.
That's
Yeah,
job
but
done.
you still have the seat tickets and all that stuff.
It's gonna be. Listen, I think it's gonna be a great title. Listen, Real Madrid went to Liverpool and were beaten 2-0 at Anfield earlier this season. It's not without the realms of possibility that we could beat Real Madrid 2-0 and take a 2-0 lead to Madrid. I mean, am I being overly optimistic, Tony?
No, I told you at the start of the year, I thought Arsenal would finish third in the Premier League and had a strong chance of winning the Champions League. And I still think it's possible. Like I said, they're battling Barcelona for the La Liga
Right.
title.
And you did say they're involved in a title race. The Arsenal's title race has cooled in the last 3 or 4 months. It was basically within.
I mean, that's the only thing we have to focus on. The rest of the year is pretty pointless.
Yeah.
As long as you don't lose too many.
And there will be competition for the players to play well in the intervening league games leading up to this semi-final. These players will want to be selected. Martinelli, he showed pretty well in the last game. Can't remember who he played, but he played pretty well. And Trossard could be another one. Odegaard seems to be coming back to life a little bit, and we know Ethan Waneri will. He's a player who's not afraid to take that shot, as Gary would say.
But the thing with him is that you've had Timber in there, so you don't have the start attackers up there. So, sorry to flip you guys over. But Odegaard's been going forward more, attacking more.
Yeah.
And it's starting to bear more fruit. At first, like I said, he just looked like a head with his chicken cut off because he would start on the right side of midfield, go up to the right winger, then go to the left. It was like a complete circle just right in front of the center backs. I hate when you have Timber, when you have the center backs we do, and depending on who you play at left back, you really don't have to worry about your defense. So I don't know why Odegaard hasn't been given a clear pass all year of going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, the year he got, 15 goals, 10 assists, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He could do that every year.
We just haven't had that consistency from Odegaard. He's hit 15 goals. Martinelli's another one that hit 15 goals one season and didn't follow it up with more goals or consistently. Gabriel Jesus is out till December, Red John, till the end of the year. And Kai Havertz should be back for pre-season. Kai Havertz is still till the end of this season. So there you go. That's the update. And Gabriel Jesus, I'm sorry, we bring him back and maybe we sell him next January. We bring him back into the team and move on from Gabriel Jesus because he just hasn't been. Listen, I think some of you have said that he's not been the same player since that World Cup. don't know if it was you. Alonso's joining now as well. Alonso, there you go. Welcome, Alonso.
Just for 5 of us. Come on, ReStream, what's on?
I don't know what that is.
By the bus.
No, just for 5 of us. It's a TV show.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Tony's making up songs.
I'd rather
I mean,
3 people do
You
it.
could sing just the five of us to the air of just the two of us, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about the bottom? Just you and Alonso on the bottom? Is that what you mean?
No, I was saying the 5 of us. I don't know why that got stuck in my head, but
All right.
what's happening,
So
Alonso?
listen, huh?
I'm just saying, what's happening, Alonso?
The monsters off of work.
All right, all right. Alonso, we're just about to wrap up the Champions League side of things. You know, we got a big game coming up with Real Madrid. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I told you guys in chat, they could miss 4 players, and we still would be would we still would have to play them, right? And this is what I don't understand about some like fans, right? They'll say, "Well, we will the opposing team will miss so and so," but yet still they give us a good game. The opponent does. So I think that no matter who's playing for Real Madrid, I think we should be up for it. Hopefully, draw some motivation from the ladies that beat Real Madrid in the week. And it isn't impossible, right? So I think we've been playing really well in the Champions League. Um, and there's always a chance, right? We did it
Oh yeah,
before, granted it was a different time era. And who's not to say we can't do it, right? So I'm very optimistic. I think Marino has filled in as a striker, not bad. And just use that to our advantage somewhat. So I think Saliba and those guys are up for it. It seems like Mbappe, he's very good. As is Vinny Jr. But I think we have enough. I really do think we have enough at the back. Ben White's back. I think the always thing that concerns me is will Timber be up for it? In the midfield as well. I think Partey and Rice have to prove to themselves that they can play in the big games. And I think that's to me what that wins the games is the midfield, and if we have enough for them.
yeah, yeah. I think it's going to be a fascinating game, and what I think is this Arsenal team has that mental toughness now. That when things going to, because there's going to be things that go. You're going to have a difficult part of the game, either the first leg or the second leg, where Real Madrid will have majority of the ball. The game will ebb and flow, and to have that mental fortitude is important in the Champions League. We've seen Atletico Madrid take Real Madrid all the way to a penalty shootout, and we're probably just as good as them. We have to believe we're just as good as Atletico Madrid, and we can take Real Madrid. But you have to have that self belief. Each player has to have that self belief.
Zach, are you the kind of defender that's sitting there looking at that fixture going, oh, fuck, 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 oh, I'm going to get found out, fuck, 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 I'm shitting myself? Or are you the kind of defender that's like, I can't wait, bring it on, I really want to test myself against these guys?
Yeah. I think we have you think about our goalkeeper and our players, especially in the back four. I think most of those players will be they have the character to say bring Real Madrid on. I think Gabriel Magalhaes will definitely feel that way. Saliba will definitely want to go up against them, and I don't think Timber shirks or Miles Lewis Kelly. If it's going to be Miles Lewis Kelly, will shirk the challenge. They'll probably relish it, and in some ways, being the underdog will definitely suit us.
Yeah, we'll need Erdegaard to do something he hasn't done.
Yeah,
He needs to stand up and against a big team in a big moment.
Be
I mean,
physical.
we need 180 minutes from him that
Yeah.
we haven't seen in a very long time.
And the team that let him go
Sometimes.
as well. That should be motivation. The team that let him go wasn't sure about him and
Yeah.
allowed him to
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be dependent on the two people we use as fullback.
If Erdogan does not have a good game, it won't matter what our fullbacks are doing, because that means our they're just going to run through our midfield.
Yeah.
Guess what? It doesn't matter what you have on the back line if your midfield can't hold up under the pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that,
your fullbacks are supposed to cut in and stop those runs,
If
Gary.
the midfield is struggling, I'm telling you,
Jesus.
nothing about our fullbacks is going to help.
Gotta love it when Gary
I don't know. I kind of agree with
repeats
Tony
his
though,
statements.
because you got Vinny and Rodrigo, right, and they're very creative. And if they get the better of our fullbacks, it's all over.
Yeah. Miles Lewis
Think
Kelly.
that, Gary.
The only thing about Miles Lewis Kelly is he has to be a little bit more clever when it comes to putting his foot in and making challenges.
You just hope he's
Drawing.
learned from all of those experiences he's had where he's been on the cusp of getting a red or he gotten a red. All right,
Because
so
we believe
no,
he's most likely.
he's still 18, so he might make
Yeah.
mistakes. So I think we can't like not be surprised if it happens. You know,
We believe he's most likely to play, right, Gary?
who
Miles
else do
Lewis
we got?
Kelly?
Who else
Yeah.
do we have that's going to take his spot right now? But is
Mhm.
Ben White back? If Ben White's back, then maybe. If he's
Um,
back, if Ben White's back, then you have an option, right? You can go with Timber and
I-
White, right? 'Cause
I
now
agree.
War.
I agree with Paul Pod here, and Gary is right that Odegaard needs to bring his gore, not just the Oda part, but the gore. And you're right, Gary. Sometimes Odegaard gets out physical outside of
the
in
problem
the
is he
game
doesn't want to out like technical somebody, and I'm like,
God.
well, if they're gonna run you over, at least make them look silly with your feet on the
with your
ball,
feet.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I mean, he has options. He doesn't do enough of that. And take the damn shot.
I think
Take
that's
the
the
damn
next.
shot. Take the damn shot.
That's the next stage in Odegaard's career as well. Like you're gonna liken him to Dennis Bergkamp. Then Dennis Bergkamp was physical and had the skills as well. Odegaard has the skills. He's got to show that he can be just as physical. Because
He got a
Dennis
hat trick of
Bergkamp has a little bit of a nasty streak about him. You know,
he got a hat trick of assists in one of his recent international games. So you have to ask
Yes.
yourself: why is that? Is it because he's being able to give service to people that can finish, or is he coming out of his bad patch and finding some form just at the right moment? It's going to be interesting to see how he comes back on the back of those really good international fixtures or game matches that he had that everyone's talking about.
you only get the assist if the player scores the goal. You know, Tony knows that. If you only get an assist if you're efficient up front, right, Tony?
No. Yeah, no hockey assist.
Know what?
No hockey assist. There's no pre-assist that you guys like that.
No pre-assists, indeed. So listen, I'm excited. I'm excited for this challenge in the Champions League. I know Tony and I have talked about this Champions League in the last couple of years to get to this point where we're going to have this glamour tie with a Real Madrid. That's kind of why you want to be in the Champions League. You want to face the big teams in the big games rather than Arsenal players sitting at home watching this game. Now they can participate in the game, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. Question: who wants to go first in this one? Would you rather win the UEFA Champions League or the domestic treble?
The fact that we only have the Champions League right now, I'm going for the Champions League. I worry about the domestic double next year.
Treble. It's a domestic treble. So you get the Premier League and the.
We can't do that this year. And I don't deal in it. I can't deal in futures right now. Let's just win this thing right now. If we're gonna win it, and then go. Guess what? Champions League.
Champions League. Tony.
It's what we've always been going for. Is Champions League.
All right.
We've been close to it 2006 close to it, 2011 close to it.
Yeah,
I mean, if Lehman didn't get the red card, we would have won that game walking away because we
Yeah.
didn't. It wasn't until we got tuckered out in like what the 73rd minute that
Yeah.
I still think Ray, since I know the top three plus me, I sure about Alonzo, but I've never watched that game back. I think we should do a watch along of it sometime.
I think maybe we should do that. You know, I've never watched it back. Stan, Champions League or the league and the two cups together?
Well, at the moment, you know, we're walking into that really top 5-star Michelin restaurant, but there's a roped off section. And in that roped off section, you've got Chelsea sat in there, they're sat in there, Liverpool sat in there. You've even got Nottingham Forest sat in there eating the fine dining, and we're like peering over.
Yeah.
We're trying to slip the maitre d' a 20 to get it like that in this restaurant. We need to be in that roped off area. So for me, it's got to be the Champions League for the fine dining.
Yeah. Yeah. Alonzo, Champions League or treble? Not a Champions League treble.
I think Champions League to me is more important for the future of the Arsenal, I guess. Simply because it'd be more of a draw. Because team players that want to move away from their clubs will think about Arsenal as being contenders year in year out, as far as trying to make the Champions League, right. Um, I remember 2006, and I watched highlights of it, and it's very disappointing on how they lost that match.
Yeah.
And then we had a semifinals against Manchester United whenever they had Ronaldo, and to me, they're Arsenal was very young at the time when you had Fabregas and you had Eddie, you had Real Gucci and all those guys, and that was a talented bunch. But in the league, we didn't do that. We finished, I think, fourth that year. That was the year I first started watching Arsenal. Um, so those were the only chances we got to make it that far in the Champions League that I remember. So
Yeah.
I think it's important for our fan base, not only here in the States but worldwide, to get a chance to watch that excitement happen. At least for me. But I've never seen Arsenal lift a trophy. I've never seen Arsenal win the league before.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of torn on that. As a supporter, I've never seen that happen before. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn. I've never seen Arsenal win a League Cup either. I've seen them win FA Cups, but never a league trophy or a Premier League trophy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of torn. But yeah, it'd be something special if we won Champions League.
Yeah.
Being the
Go ahead, buddy.
devil advocate, Ray, I think if you did win the treble,
Yeah.
then you could get those domestic players that you want a lot easier.
Right.
Instead of dipping into the international market where you don't know how these players are going to react to the Premier League. That way you're buying players that you know what they're going to do.
Now,
There's not much guesswork in what's to happen.
yeah, and I think
But can I say as well,
Alonso.
if you beat a Real Madrid, when it comes to contract negotiations with someone like Saliba, you can be like, why do you want to go there? We beat them. Why do you want to go there to make them better when you can stay here and help us continue winning? That's a great argument to have.
Yeah, but he has Saudi money
Aston
after
Villa.
him too. He has Saudi money after him as well.
Yeah.
Him and Gabriel both.
Yeah, there's times when Liverpool couldn't win the league. They won the Champions League, and that's what Arsenal need to do as well. I think, and Alonso talking about the last time in 2006, I'm minded to remember we had a very makeshift back four.
Mhm.
We didn't have the best defense, but they went all the way to the final in 2006 as well. So being defensively sound, you could go far in this competition, but it's going to be fun. Real Madrid, you got to enjoy these games. Of course, there's going to be nerves. You're going to be hoping that Arsenal can pull it out, but it's going to be interesting to watch. And we hope that Bukayo Saka can play a part and come through it without injury as well, because we're going to need Bukayo Saka next season as well. Um, Wanted to move a little bit to the next topic, and I think Stan mentioned something we can go into is the cost of football. You want to talk about that, Stan? And for me, there's an emotional cost of football as well. It sort of resonates with me right now that as an Arsenal fan, we had that expectation all season of winning the Premier League, and it didn't pan out through numerous reasons this season. But there is a real cost of football, right, Stan?
I mean, it doesn't affect me as much because I live in Canada now. But if you're living in London and you want to go and see the Arsenal, I mean, if you haven't got a season ticket, it's hard enough, getting the tickets on the exchange. But I mean, Arsenal are said to be putting their prices up, and then you've got the thing, I can remember when there was no such thing as a third kit. All of a sudden now there's a third kit, and that third kit, which hardly gets used, that gets updated every season as well. And I was listening to a guy on the radio say that he went in and he bought a football shirt or whatever. Because now as well, when you buy a football shirt, you can get like a proper match one, or you can get like a replica one, and there's a difference in price. And then if you want to get one for your son and you want to put a name on the back, I mean, it's extortionate money.
Yeah.
And I just feel that and those people that can't afford to get a season ticket, if you want to watch every single game, you've got to have a subscription to 3 different channels, right? You've got to have Sky, TNT, and you've got to have Amazon. That adds up to about 140, and then you wonder why you have a lot of people that do illegal streaming, because we're living in an age now where everything has gone up, nothing's coming back, nothing's coming down, petrol goes up, your mortgage goes up, school fees are going up, eggs are going up. So I worry a little bit about, like, where is this bubble going to end? There's going to be a time where people just won't be able to go. And are you then, Arsenal are talking about perhaps extending their stadium, putting more seats in, as well as renovation. Are we just going to be counting on tourists every week to be able to buy the tickets to make sure that the stadium is full? I do worry a little bit about where this bubble is going to and where it ends. More so for those that live in England, as I say, that are actually in a position to get tickets, whether it's a season ticket or buying a ticket off the exchange. And then you look at Chelsea, and I think they're giving money. They're not raising their prices. I think they're lowering their prices or something like that.
Tony was going to come in there. Tony?
I was going to go to Stan with this earlier because you mentioned when the Kroenikes would sell. Would building the new stadium, getting that complete, would you then sell the team but keep the stadium?
I don't know about that, but I mean, if you're going to improve the stadium, that's going to add to the value, right? For the end, if you're going to everything's going to lock on barrel, that's just going to add to the value of your asset, right? It's just like buying a second-hand car, but putting a lot of new bits onto it and you're raising the value. And I think that's obviously going to be the end game of the Cronkies, as I mentioned earlier. They never bought Arsenal to bequeath it to generations and generations, and 40 years from now they'll be like the great grandson of the Cronkies who will own Arsenal. This is going to get sold at some point.
Yeah, I don't think they'd keep the ground and sell the team. I think everything would go lock, stock, and smoking barrel, Tony. But if you upgrade the stadium and you get more bums on seats, you know what I mean? You're able to sell.
You remember the Rams, the Ravens? That's
Yeah.
what happens when you don't own the stadium.
What happened, Gary?
Well, the team just leaves and the stadium's there empty. So if you don't, your consistent revenue is the football team, right? And then you have the bonuses of the concerts to add more money to the pot. But your football team's going to be playing there 25 matches a season, right?
Yeah.
That's 25 weeks out of the year. You're guaranteed, and then it's a matter of going out and marketing yourself to get those other big concerts and stuff to bring in more money. That's how that team does it, right?
Oh, jeez.
So
Doesn't sound like
yeah,
doesn't
nobody
sound like a
buys
nice thing.
nobody's gonna nobody. I don't think anybody's ever gonna say, you know what, I'll sell the team, but I'm keeping. You keep the stadium, all right. When the team leaves to go somewhere else, what do? You know, there goes your steady income. You don't do that.
Sounds very soulless when that happens. There's no soul left in the area because the stadium and the team should go together.
Well, I think that
Whatever code that is.
there's some international tournament coming up, and Arsenal have been asked to be one of the stadiums to be used, and they've actually turned it down, saying that they would prefer to, for that summer, use it for, as Gary says, other projects, concerts or other things, and also use that time to start doing renovations and sprucing up the stadium. So they're obviously going to make an investment into the stadium, because when it comes time to sell, it's going to get them a lot more than what they paid. And that's what the Cronkies are in it for. They're business people.
They don't sell.
Huh?
They'll never sell.
No,
Won't never sell.
they will. I believe they will.
They don't sell. You know, you see what they did with the Rams. What do? They just built a bigger stadium. Why? Because that's how they're all about the real estate. It just so happens it has a football team in the same facility.
Yeah,
They're not selling because it's like,
And
you know,
that's SoFi. Yeah.
but you, and there you have the NFL studios. You have all kinds of
yeah.
offices and
That's why they
other
want to
businesses
expand.
there.
That's why they want to expand Emirates, because their real estate. They're more about the real estate than they are about the team. But they're not going to sell. They can't. They're not going to sell what sells. You know what
Yeah.
people come to the stadium for. So
I guarantee you they'll put a hotel there.
And I'm not saying it's going to be anytime soon, but I just think the Cronkies will sell, and the money that they've loaned to the team at the moment is up to £325 million. You know, there's no interest on that, but they're not asking Arsenal to pay that back. When they sell, that gets factored into the selling price. They'll get that money back plus profits, and I just think that's what their end game is.
They don't do that in any of their other businesses. So
I don't
why would
think
they
they
do it
view
in
it
this one?
because I think they view it very differently. The football,
They
in
view it for the
England.
real estate, the Emirates Stadium. They're not going to sell it. Emirates Stadium is what they're one of the key. If you look at the way that their business model is, the real estate is definitely key to how they make their money. All right, that's why they've done all the things they did in California, and they'll try to do the same thing, I believe, in Emirates Stadium. Expand it, bring in another 15 to 20,000 more seats, and then, as you said, build around it to create more business.
Gary,
into their pockets.
What? Do you think that they would expand downwards like SoFi? You know, they lower the pitch level down.
You got to talk to the council for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no,
council,
but I think what they did at did at Bernabeu is what they're talking about. However, the Bernabeu, how they increase the. Supposedly, that's the model they would take, is my understanding. So
they would maybe do one side of the stadium at a time and build a bigger end.
I think
right?
with Bernabeu, they dug deeper.
They did dig deeper in the Bernabeu.
Okay, that's what I've heard. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's a huge amount of money as well, a huge investment. But again, you got to speculate. They do speculate to accumulate. Here we are again, Stan. We go back to the ordinary supporter. All of this doesn't come at a cost without the supporter having to bear some of that cost. The fan, you know what I mean? Whether it's the season tickets going up or the match day experience being more expensive.
I think, there's other teams that are not doing that. You know, and where do you think the money's coming from that's being given to Arteta? As I say, Cronkies are giving loans. They're not giving free money away. They are putting their hands in their pockets to an extent, but these are loans that, as I say, I think is going to be factored into a selling price because they're not asking for payments back. I hear what Gary's saying, and a lot of it does make sense, but I think that in some cases, when you're building a real estate portfolio, part of that is to sell at a profit. You buy low, you sell high. And I just think that's within the next 10 years, I don't see the Kroenkes still being the owners of Arsenal.
Yeah, there's nobody that could forecast how much
They sat
longer
around and waited to buy Arsenal.
they've been.
That's how invested they were. They didn't own Arsenal for what, only the last 5 years. And
Yeah,
how long were they in before
They,
that?
they,
They
they
were
had
ha-
complete control,
probably
Gary.
there
It doesn't
15 years
matter.
they
now.
did not own the entire. They didn't own
They
Arsenal.
had
They owned
complete
like fifty one
control, though.
percent, right? But
They
then they
own a
did.
share of it.
But they started with what? They didn't start with 51%.
No,
No,
it's
they
They've
lower.
About
started
been
with
40.
they've been sitting on this for a bit.
yeah.
They're okay. They're
They,
patient. They don't have. There's no rush in this game,
Oh
right?
no,
it,
there's no. I'm not saying there's a rush.
As the value of Arsenal went up, they didn't have to use some of their money to pay out people. It was already there, right? So
Yeah,
most of the time, Gary, they own 67% of it.
they
There's
didn't
only
own
a couple of years.
67% when they started investing in Arsenal. They
yeah,
didn't.
Yes, they did.
Not when
Yeah.
no, because if you remember, it was 51% when the Russian guy or whatever was they
Militia
were going
Asimov.
back and forth with him, right? He had a large percentage of it at that point,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I believe
He,
they had,
he,
I
he did
believe, I
not
believe
have
And
the
a board
Kroenkes
and
seat.
had
he
60%
wanted
of
to
it,
buy
and
out, and they
everything
said
else had
no.
40%.
He had no say in what went on in Arsenal.
I didn't say
He
that, but
did he
I
did
don't
not
think
have a board
they
seat.
didn't have 51% when they started this
Yeah.
They
thing.
they
When they
they
invested the
had full
first time,
control. They had full
They're like
control.
they're like the big seagull who pushed the other seagull aside on the beach because he's gonna eat,
yeah.
the worm or whatever. You know what I mean?
The
The Cronkies
the
were there.
Kroenikes had
On
full control. It
they were
didn't
on the
matter if they had
premises. Yeah,
don't matter if they had 67 or 100%. They had full control
yeah.
of what was going on.
I don't know what's going to happen with football. I mean, it's interesting what Gary and Stan are talking about in terms of what was the value of Arsenal 15 years ago when the Cronkies came along. What was the value of Dennis Bergkamp when Bruce Rioch bought him? 7.5 million, and that's like, what would that get you now in this day and age? What kind of player could you buy for 7.5 million? You know, it's just
I,
crazy to think about.
I,
Um,
I'm still surprised that these inflated prices so quickly after COVID. You started having Mbappe's deal, which
yeah,
was a ridiculous amount
what's
of
that?
money, and it just
What was the player? Trevor Francis, was he the first £1 million player? Trevor
Trevor
Francis,
Francis,
or
yeah.
what is? Yeah, Trevor Francis, and then we have £100 million player. Next, we'll have £150 million player if that hasn't been done already,
I've seen that
and then a
happen in
two
my
hundred
lifetime,
million
going
pound
from
player.
1 million being in school and thinking, wow, they've just bought a football player has just been sold for £1 million. Wow. And then, as you say, we bought Declan Rice for 105 million.
Yeah, 100 million and five and change. Crazy, crazy.
and you really have to wonder.
Anyway,
You have to wonder
unless
where all
anyone's
that
got
money actually comes
anything
from.
else to really bring to the table, Tony?
I said it's really you really wonder where all that money comes from. How much comes from ticket sales? How much comes from merchandise sales? How much comes from just getting money like Premier League, finishing second or third, or Champions League? Like right now, we're sitting at 89 million this year, and it's a go up dramatically on these Real Madrid games.
Unfortunately, it's a little bit tough if you're a fan and you want your team to win trophies. Some of the domestic trophies are not as enticing or lucrative as getting into the top five in the Premier League and getting some of that Champions League money. It really should be weighted to where the trophies should bring you the most revenue, but it's participation in the Champions League now that brings that revenue for you. And so we're in a position where we're wondering if Arsenal are in it to win trophies. They're in it to win a Premier League. Are they in it to win a Champions League? Or are they in it just to, cash, punch the ticket every season for Champions League? We'll see. We'll have to see this
we
summer.
have to see, Ray. We seen with Wenger what happened. we've seen what happened with Arteta. So there's at least probably 20 years that you know what they're doing. They want the money and revenue that comes from the Emirates, and they'll give it
Yeah.
up when the proper bid comes in.
And the thing that's always been with Arsenal through the Wenger years and through certainly Mikel Arteta years is we've always been missing one or two pieces that the club needs to shell out big money for. And we talked extensively about a striker. This summer it's got to happen. We haven't had a striker in 2 or 3 years. We've tried to win things by number of players scoring enough goals, and that's not been enough to get us over the hump. You know,
Yeah.
so
Stan, did you?
Tony, just to let you know, in 2007, Kroenke's owned 12% of Arsenal. In 2011, 67%, like you said. They did not own 67% when they started. They took their time and acquired Arsenal bit by
Yeah,
bit
but
until they
people
yeah.
people
until
said
you
they.
were wrong. You were wrong that they did not purchase 60, 70,
What you had was
67% at the gun. They took their time and they acquired Arsenal bit by bit until they hit
yeah.
the prime. Until they got
What
yeah.
you had was aging directors, right? Aging
Yeah.
board
Well,
members
you
who
know,
wanted to
the
cash in.
Cronkies, aka Cronkies, bought them out, the board members.
They wanted to cash in their chips. You know. Anyway, listen. We'll give everybody an opportunity to say what they've got to say. We'll get out of here. Gary, thanks for joining tonight. Any final
Thanks for having
words
me on. It was good
as you depart?
chatting as it always is. Ray, Stan, Tony, Lonzo, and everybody in the chat. We'll do this again another time. But yeah. Now I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing how this Berta era goes. If it's gonna go, will he get the keys or will he just be just looking through the window?
Yeah, interesting take on hopefully what should hold Mikel Arteta's feet to the fire. Alonso,
We seen what happened the last time we had a transfer guru. He didn't last the full season.
Alonso, thanks for joining, albeit a little bit late
Yeah,
after
it's good to
work.
see you guys, Dan, Gary, Tony, yourself, Ray. Yeah, it's been fun tonight. I know I work late on Thursday nights now, so um, every once in a while I try to make time to come on. Good to see everybody in the chat. Yeah, I just hope that Arsenal just continue to play well throughout the rest of the season, especially against Real Madrid. Um, and I work with a coworker who's a big Real Madrid fan, so I'm just talking about his team and my team. So it's good banter, but good to see you guys and see you guys soon.
Yeah, I'll be in touch, Tiger and Gunner. Cheers, mate. Tony,
My point to Gary was everybody says it changed when like these had 100% control. It didn't change because at 67% they had full control because
all right,
Ivanov he didn't have any power. He never had a board
take
seat.
it off. Listen, take it
Yeah, they
outside and
didn't do
duke it out,
anything until
both
they
of
had
you. Okay.
100%, and you know it because you saw it. As soon as they got 100%, they started allowing the team to go out there and purchase and buy these players. They bought out the loan, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yes and no.
The
All right.
loans are still there, Gary. The loans
No,
are
but
still
they
there.
took over the loans, and now the team just pays it back. They don't pay back any bank, right?
And from my part, as an Arsenal fan, we all are walking this line where we have to wait maybe till next season, but we do have a big Champions League game coming up, and hopefully Arsenal can step forward and do something that it'll be against the odds. You know what I mean? In terms of beating a Real Madrid team, because that doesn't tend to happen. Stan, your
Yeah,
final
thanks for
thoughts?
having me on. Good to chat to everybody. And for me, I'm just really excited about the two fixtures with Real Madrid to be able to sit down and gauge where this team is, even though we're not We've not got all of our legs, harking back to that dog with his leg up in the air. But we've got to do the best that we can, and I can't wait.
Or this dog.
All right, cool. Listen, it's been great getting back on the podcasting again. It's been well, you can hear in my throat, right? Have I been really bad today? You can hear
Coughing
it, right?
stops. Good.
Yeah. Coughing
Your
stopped a little bit.
nonsense sounds the same to me, so I don't know. Anybody?
Yeah,
anything?
it's just a different tone. Same nonsense, just a different tone.
I
Gary.
kept trying to get Ray to come back.
You were. But I was a bit worse than this a week ago.
Yeah.
Listen, cheers to all of you. Thanks for joining me again tonight. Really appreciate it. It's been fun getting back together and talking about things. The one thing that we all have in common is Arsenal, and maybe a little bit more than that as well.
Can you say goodbye to StreamYard, Ray?
Goodbye, StreamYard. Hello, ReStream. There you go. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully we see you on Sundays again as well. Okay, as the FA Cup's back, but Arsenal aren't in it. Maybe in the future Arsenal can get back to that FA Cup. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night and have a great weekend. Okay, we're almost on the weekend, so be good out there and.